We do have one handout here. It's a Bible study. I think this is on spiritualism. I mentioned that this morning. This we need to give to probably the evangelism leader or the pastor. The rest of these books you probably have seen at the ABC since y'all are there. And a lot of times when I'm in other places of the conference, they don't have an ABC that close by. So I'm just going to mention 2 or 3 things. This book, we send when a person, and off the internet, I told you this morning, about half of our people are taking the Bible lessons, and the Bible lesson is this very simple Bible research. It's very simple, and they just fill in the missing words of Bible text, and they can do that pretty quickly. But we send this book to start with. It's called Passion of Love. And I've had remarkable stories on these things. People that are saying, would you send me 25? I had a bishop with Episcopal Methodist Church in South Georgia said, could you send me 25 of these for us to use as a study group? I had a guy call me from West Virginia, and he said, I found you on the internet, and he said, that's the best book I've ever seen outside of the Bible. And he said, I have free companies on the internet if they give away free material. And he said, do you mind if I put you on our list? And I said, of course, that'd be great. So this is simply the closing scenes, of course, of the crucifixion weekend. I mentioned this morning spiritualism. If there's one magazine up here I'm asking each family to take, we need to be familiar with this, folks. I'm just telling you. Again, I made reference this morning to Revelation 18. I mean, you read verse 23 in that chapter. That's just 4 chapters from the end of the Bible, in which it talks about how that Satan is going to use spiritualistic behavior for the whole world, the religious leaders and financial leaders and so forth. So make sure you pick up that, okay? You're going to be able to, I'm trying to reshuffle a few things here. You'll be able to take one book and one magazine off of each side, okay? Over here is health, all right? This magazine, every family needs to take one. And by the way, a lot of these things are at the ABC. This one has a lot of scientific research supporting a lot of the things we'll be talking about today, okay? This one I recommend strongly in regards to diabetes. This is from Wildwood, and this is probably the best magazine we've got that's out there referring to diabetes. Now, having said that, I did make reference this morning to the diabetes program. There was called Grundy. How many have heard of the Grundy program? I don't know if y'all had it here or not, but some of you seen it around. It was named after the county, Grundy County, up near Mount Eagle there on the mountain. The worst county in Tennessee for the percentage of diabetes. Steve and Karen Wickham decided, it's an interesting story how the Lord led them to start in this field. And since then, they've been doing these for the conference, and now they're doing conferences all over the United States. I'm afraid I'm going to lose them more like before. I could say, can you go to this church and that type of thing. This little booklet summarizes their program. Let me just give you an idea of what can happen. We did one in Ringgold, and we did one in Battlefield. That's 73 total people in the 2 churches that came in Catoosa County. And most of you know where Catoosa County is, just across the line. There was a guy named, how could I forget his name? Butch Oliver. And Butch had taken karate, and since I had taken karate, it kind of gave us something to talk about. And he wasn't a Seventh-day Adventist. He came, and turns out he wasn't even a diabetic. His wife was. She was on 1,000 units of medication, and in order to encourage her, he came. Well, 6 months later, he comes through the door, and I hardly recognized him. I said, Butch, what has happened? He said, E.W., you've changed my life. He had lost 44 pounds. And I said, how did you do this? He said, I just went to a plant-based diet. And folks, I've had him at the executive committee of the conference to tell this story. The church where he goes, and his dad's a Baptist pastor. And he just keeps sharing this story. Well, his wife today, now that was 2 years ago. Today, his wife is completely off of all medication. And I'm just telling you, folks, if it happens with the Olivers, it can happen with anybody you know. He's not a young person. He's in, I guess, his 50s, maybe even 60. I don't know. So anyway, take this. They have renamed their program. It's now called Reversing Diabetes Explained. And most of the other magazines here, I think, are self-explanatory, okay? This one is an interesting one, and I only have 2 or 3 of these. Talking about video games and spiritualism, but it also has a section in there dealing with diabetes, okay? All right. I think we are ready to start. So can y'all see this okay, or do we need to turn lights off up here, or can you do that? Can y'all see the screen okay? What did he say? Can you dim the lights up front? Somebody? Anybody? Okay. Are you on the first text? Have they got it up there? Yeah, you're right there. Now, you don't have a microphone, do you? Yeah, if you don't mind. The first text we're going to look at up here, a biblical text, 3 John, verse 2. Of course, it's a simple text. And go ahead.
Can you hear me now? All right. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth.
So we normally think of, the Lord wants our soul to prosper. Well, He also wants us physically or mentally. And keep that in mind. We sometimes talk about the body only. But if we've got some, the mind's also, as we all know, extremely important to be optimally at a good level. And, okay, let's go to the next slide if you don't mind.
Okay.
And this one, I think you can probably read. It's kind of hard to read, but go ahead.
Pure air, sunlight, abstemiousness, rest, exercise, proper diet, the use of water, trust in divine power. These are the true remedies.
The true remedies. We're talking about, we mentioned this morning now, the immune system. We're talking about heart disease and type 2 diabetes. It's very interesting that if you go on the internet and check out the immune system, and some of you have probably done that, how do you strengthen it? And a big factor. It's very interesting. Almost anybody that's got anything out there says the same thing. One of them does say very right off, first thing off, stop smoking. Most all of them have that somewhere in the thing, because we understand. I just lost a cousin here a few weeks ago because earlier in her life she smoked a lot, and it took a toll on her. But you'll see that it's the same thing. Fruits and vegetables, right down the line, exercise, the various things that we talk about and are going to talk about. Water, I mentioned that this morning, of how that if you weren't here, or anybody that's listening, research shows that 75% of Americans are dehydrated at any one point. That means at this point right now, 75% of us, 3/4 of us, don't have enough water. And 37% misinterpret that and think they're hungry, so they eat more, and it makes it worse. And as I said this morning, generally we've always said drink 8 glasses of water a day. And so I mentioned to the group this morning, if I weigh 200 and you weigh 100, we both need 8 ounces of water. That doesn't even make 8 glasses of water. That doesn't make sense, does it? So the World Health Organization, whether we trust that or not, has made a suggestion that it be half the body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 100 pounds, that would be obviously 50 ounces, or 5, depending on what you're drinking out of. It is a habit. I would suggest that when you get up in the morning to drink a certain amount of water, and you need to do it periodically, because I know how easy it is to forget. Now, I know at the conference office, I count my swallows of water. I know that people think this is crazy, but if I turn up a bottle of water, I count it to a certain number. So if I take a little cup like this at the conference office, and you think, oh, I just had some water. Well, how much did I have? 4 swallows in one little cup. So I'm usually counting. Somebody may come along and say 10, 30, 15, because they're trying to confuse me. See, they think I'm counting my swallows, which I am. Anything that will work for you, okay, on water. Let's talk about sunshine. Sunshine, as we know, and by the way, keep in mind what we're doing this afternoon is more of an overview. You can bring in an expert or somebody to talk specifically all day on one topic. On sunshine, the big thing there we realize is vitamin D. Now, somebody that we talked to, you mentioned, was connected with Adventist World Radio. Adventist World Radio helped sponsor a symposium last April, and they covered 4 hours, 2 topics each night for 4 weeks. That is on our website at the conference office. And she can later tell you how to get to the website in case you want to watch that. They had experts in the denomination or maybe outside the denomination covering these things. We're talking about vitamin D. And folks, you're going to hear me say this more than one time today. Don't raise your hand, but when was the last time you had a blood lipid panel where they really check all of your blood system and what all's in your blood? Once you pass the age of 40 or something, I know people say do it every 2 years, but I really think it ought to be every year if possible. For a number of years, we have tested our pastors and teachers. And at least in 2 cases that I know of, one of them was one of our directors and one was a pastor that discovered they had prostate cancer as a result of our test. So, it's just something I recommend. And you need to know your vitamin D level. Now, sometimes we make and do stupid things, and I've been known to do that a lot. Just ask my kids. You know what I mean. But I thought my vitamin D level, they were recommending that it be about 40 on the international unit number. But when I did our blood sugar test, mine was 150. And it's really can be bad. Too much is too little. So this is why I'm saying we need to know where we are as far as these numbers are concerned, okay? Now, I'm going to skip over to air. By the way, there are a number of acronyms out there for programs. The North American Division has one called Celebrations with a C. Oh, you've heard of Florida Hospitals announce Advent Health with a C, Choice. I tend to use the one that came out of Weimar a long time ago, New Start. So we're talking about kind of going in that line when I mentioned air. We're talking about your pulmonary system. Now, in small groups, I cannot do it here today because there's just not enough time. Sometimes in the smaller churches, I'm able to test them with a very simple little thing that you can discover what your pulmonary rate index is. The average for men is 350, average for women is 330. I will tell you, I'm going to use myself as an example this afternoon, not because I'm perfect, but if I can make these changes, you can. My pulmonary rate index is over 900. Why? Because I run and I do a lot of things that we're going to talk about. You can think about these things, you can talk about it, you can watch a video, but unless you do these things to make changes, it's just not going to happen. So I'll come back to that one a little bit later, okay? One on sleep. Years ago, about 15 years ago, I had Dr. Ayatono that came to camp meeting, and he was the world's leading brain surgeon. He had reversed more Parkinson's than any doctor in the world. He was a brain surgeon at Loma Linda, and he had reversed 150 cases of Parkinson's. But he also had done research with melatonin. And melatonin is a chemical that he discovered. It's made at night, and there has to be absolute darkness. He said no light, no night light, not even a television or a computer plugged in or anything that can diffuse the making of melatonin. The melatonin, he says, makes the serotonin, which is made in daytime, and that's what really makes us feel good and this type of thing. At that time, I was already having an on-site with what's eventually become Stargardt. It's a form of macular degeneration. It has gradually gotten worse. I can't drive anymore. Probably wouldn't know you unless you're 2 feet in front of me, and even then I may not recognize you. But I'm not totally blind. I mean, I can still see white and I see peripherally. Matter of fact, I even still play golf. And I was playing golf with the guys from the conference office in the Southern Union tournament, and they were talking because they usually have to tell me which way to aim. And they were talking. I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and hit. And about the time the ball's there, Gary, who's our president now, said, I think you just hit somebody. Well, it literally could have been serious. It hit him on the shoulder, and we'd have probably had some kind of physical reaction, except that they were part of the Southern Union. And they just wanted to know why I didn't yell forward, which is what you're supposed to yell. And I said, because I didn't know anybody was out here. And the funny part, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about this afternoon, except we were playing up at Bear Trace in the Dave Crest Memorial Tournament, and this man walks up to me and says, "Do you know who I am?" And I said, "No, who are you?" He said, "I'm the guy you hit in Florida. I want to make sure I'm not in front of you today." So anyway, that's just a lesson. We don't quit and stop just because we can't see, okay? All right, let's go to, and by the way, to finish that story, he said, "I've not done research on dealing with macular or anything like that." He said the ideal, based on his research, was 200 milligrams of melatonin, organic melatonin, and 30, I said it wrong, 30 of melatonin and 200 of B6. I was allergic to B6, so I've never been able to do that. It took me a while to get to melatonin. Check with your doctor first before you even get started on something like that, but it took me a while. I went 3 milligrams, then 5, then 10, then 15, then 18. Finally, I got up to 30. It's just like any other drugs, you might say. You don't just jump right up. And so, but check with your doctor first to see if that's, and then start out slowly. Okay? All right, let's go to, what we're going to do now is we're going to start off with carbohydrates. And, I'm sorry. We're going to start with exercise. And as I said earlier, there's a reason for this. Can y'all see that a little better now? Go ahead to the next picture and we'll find out, because the chart that you're going to show. Go ahead to the next picture. Yeah. Can y'all see that all right? Yeah. Okay, it is in your folder in your sheet. If you'll notice, this says the chance for in relation to heart disease across the board. And you'll see that it's a 4-to-1 ratio. If you don't mind, can you read the scores and what it says at the bottom?
So the least fit is 4.5.
Yeah,
the risk of
the one on the left is like no exercise.
Okay. And then the next one is 346 to, looks like 793 to 801 is 2.4.
Okay, I'll tell you what, let's do. Let me just go with this on percentages. I can tell you that the basic percentage is this. If you exercise 1 hour a week walking, now we're talking about walking, and later we're going to talk about different types of exercise. Walking 1 hour a week, you lower your chance for a heart attack by 29%. Oh. If you walk 3 hours a week, you're going to lower it it'll go all the way up to 48%. 5 hours a week, it can go all the way to 59%, or if you're doing it with some vigor, you can make it go all the way down so you're only a 41% chance for heart attack. That's cutting heart attacks in half just by walking. Now, later we're going to see the problem in regard to diet and those kinds of things, okay? And we're going to talk more about it. This is just one little sample. Let's go to the next picture. Now, the next factor, this one is, and again, this is based on a lot of research, that today in North America, there will be 12.4, 12.6,
12.4.
12 what?
12.4.
Yeah, 12.4
inactive
men die with non-accidental deaths. As you look at the deaths across America today, 12.4 are non-accidental. That means from some kind of disease or reaction to something. And now, what we're going to talk about here is the effect of exercise, and we're talking about aerobic exercise. What is aerobic exercise? Aerobic is getting your heart rate increased, okay? If your normal heart rate is 75 and you stay at 75, then your heart strength is going to stay at 75. Now, if you, and I'll use myself as example, as I said, if you begin some kind of program gradually increasing, then you will see that it can strengthen your heart. Now, how do you know? Well, you go to the doctor or whatever. No, well, yeah, you're going to do that, but there's some other ways to check it too. Your pulse rate will eventually change. My pulse rate used to be 72, like the average male. Women's is usually around 80 on the average. My resting pulse rate today is 52 to 60. Again, it's not an accident. I'm going to talk about that, okay? But right now I'm just showing you some of these results. So if you do at least 3 days a week, 30 minutes of getting your heart rate up, and I'm going to talk about what's safe and so forth. And again, I've already mentioned Dr. Meyer over here. Be glad to test for you. So everybody, I mean, we can all do better than we're doing, okay? And so if you do 30 minutes at least, 3 days a week. I'm going to show you a test from Harvard Medical School in a few moments on this. Then you'll gradually, and you want to do it gradually. Now, let me use an example right off of how you can make a mistake. My sister-in-law lives with us right now, and somebody today actually came up and asked me about her and knew it. But she had a major heart attack recently, working as a nurse in New Mexico. They had to bring her back alive 4 times. So she came to live with us, and so I started checking her pulse rate, and so I could see the pulse rate. Let's just say whatever, it might have been 75, okay? So I said, what I want you to do, and, you know, she's been connected with doctors. I said, let's see if you can walk across the room, which might have been from halfway from here to that wall. I said, I'm going to let you walk there just 2 or 3 times. I'm going to check your pulse. So sure enough, the rate went up by just a few. And I said, okay, that's what we want to set as a goal. Maybe just get your heart rate up just 5. Okay? And so I said, that's what I want you to do every day. Just walk whatever time it took to do that, maybe 2 times over and back. Because I was a former coach, and I was in all kinds of sports in my life, in an earlier life. And I was in all kinds of sports, but I'd never been in long-distance running. But back in around 1988 or so, I decided, or maybe even before that, I decided I wanted to start running, and I guess it was before that. It might have been the early 80s. So I started at a 1/4 mile. If you go over to the track at Collegedale, one time around is a 1/4 mile. And so I ran a 1/4 mile for 3 days, 3 weeks, and then I noticed I could go 1/2 mile 3 days, 3 weeks. Then I kept going to 3/4. I eventually built up to 10 miles that way. I lived at Stanford Gap. I'd leave Stanford Gap and run to Ringo, or to the city limits. And so I found out that your body will adjust, okay? And so in a few minutes, we're going to talk about setting goals for you and how to do that. But right now, we're looking at the fact that things can change. As you can see, it cuts in more than half the death rates of heart attacks in research. Now, that doesn't mean it's obviously not 100%, but you can see the percentage. Let's go to the next one. Ladies, that was men, by the way. Women, it's even more significant. This is extremely important. Women's mortality rate today is 9. Out of the deaths of today, there'll be 9 non-accidental deaths for every 100 women. Look at this. With a regular aerobic exercise program, you could cut it, ladies, more than triple down to 2.9. It looks like you could cut out almost all non-accidental deaths. This is very significant, folks. These things are based on large amounts of research. Let's go to the next category. Okay. Okay. This one we're a little more sensitive to. It's the waist girth. It's very interesting that the comparison here is 4 inches difference. Men 39 inches down to 35 inches. If it's 39 to 35, based on research on this only, it doubles your chance for a heart attack. Women is even more significant. Go to the next one. 37 to 33 inches, same 4. It's a triple chance for a heart attack. Don't ask me why, but it is very significant. Now, this one is very interesting. This is from Harvard Medical School. This is a drawn up, looking like a cell. Okay, we know that in school you learned about the nucleus, you learned about the mitochondria. What they discovered in about, I think it was 2014, that the mitochondria controls how much blood flow goes into every cell. That when you exercise, the mitochondria will automatically send a signal to the brain and all these places in your body, whatever, that needs more oxygen. And here's what they discovered, very significant, folks, that if you have a regular aerobic exercise, remember I said at least 3 days a week, 30 minutes, then it allows triple the amount of blood flow for every heartbeat. Triple for every heartbeat. That's how important aerobic exercise is, okay? And because of that, we're going to go in just a moment and check your pulse. Let's see what the next picture is. I'm not sure I want to go any farther right now. What does that one say?
Physical activity.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry. Don't look at that. They probably already looked at it when I said that. It's okay. This was 42,000 plus men, 6,000 plus women. A pretty good sized study. I said it wrong. It was 32,000 men, 6,000 plus women, so it was 40,000 total. Look at what the number one category was. Usually as Seventh-day Adventists, we say, well, it's smoking, because we really try to stress not to smoke. But look at the number one category up there. What is it? Low fitness. Out of 40,000 people tested, folks. It just tells us, and not only that, this is hard to believe, but it said if a person smokes but exercises, aerobic exercise, they're better off than a person that does not smoke and does not exercise. Now, you can interpret that however you want to, but that gets your attention. They even said that if you had any combinations of some of these other problems that you can see up there, diabetes, all these things, that it's the same story. That it's just extremely important. And that's why I'm starting out with that today, and I do it every week. Because I'm in the church, because I know what we do. We have a tendency to talk about diet. And this is something we can do something about. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Right now, we're going to, do you have a stopwatch or 30 seconds or something? Yes. I want you to find your pulse rate. You can find it on your wrist using your fingers. You can find it also on your neck. You can find it under your arm. And I want to make sure everybody can find it, because what we would like to do is, and this is only an estimate, because you did just eat a little while ago and you did walk over here, but we would like to be able to eventually discover your resting pulse rate. The only way you can establish a target zone is to know what it is. And I've mentioned it 2 or 3 times again. About the last time I was here, probably 12, 15 years ago, I actually had Dr. Meyer with me because he is right here. And I think it's just a matter of scheduling if he still does other than students, because I think he ties this into his research. And it's basically the same principle, okay? So, has everybody found your pulse rate? Anybody that's not? Okay, I can't see anyway. So, all right, I'm going to let you say ready, set, go, and we're going 30 seconds, okay? Don't count out loud. Just close your eyes and concentrate.
Ready, set, go. Stop.
Stop? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of shaky. But I heard it. Stop. Did everybody stop? Okay. Double that figure. You can do it in your mind if you want to. 35 would be 70. 38 would be 76. That kind of stuff, okay? But write it down somewhere. All right. Now, if that's a true figure, but I would check this at a time where you've not been doing any kind of eating, like 2-hour break or something. You need to establish the perfect plan, what the perfect goal would be, okay? And now, we're going to show you the chart. However, I'm just going to show it to you. This is based on a little research. It's not, I'm not going to recommend that you even go this high. We'll get it here. Okay, this is based on a lot of research for what we call a training zone. This is where you're like up here at 200. That's a maximum. That is a dangerous area. And I was going to tell you about my sister-in-law. I came home one day and she said, I'm really tired. And I said, why are you tired? She said, well, I felt pretty good, so I walked a lot farther than you told me to. I said, you cannot do that. That can kill you. I mean, here I told her to walk, say, 4 times. And she says, oh, I walked 10 or 20 times. She's got her heart rate up. So you do not want to gamble this, folks. I had a cousin die at the age of 33 with a heart attack. It is serious business. I'll say it over and over. If you're over 40, check your doctor before you start any kind of program. What did I say? Check with your doctor. Okay. Now, she's going to call off by ages, and we'll start it with age of 20. And these are what is called, based on a lot of research, on the average across. Now, everybody in here is different. We've got heredity. We've got all kind of factors. So that's why I don't even like to go this far. But these are the recommendations based on research. If you're 20 years of age, having your pulse rate after your training zone. And I normally say, and Dr. Meyer usually starts with 3.5 minutes on this. Walk 3.5 minutes, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But here's the zone, the scores. Your heart rate would be between
170 and 140.
Okay. Age 30.
133 and 162 is the highest.
40.
126 and 153.
50.
119 and 145. And age 60 is 112 to 136.
70.
70 is 105 to 128.
80.
97 to 119.
Okay. You can see it's going down. Now, I have to be very careful in a group like this because everybody's different. What I recommend is not getting your heart rate more than about 10 to 20. If your heart rate is 75, I think you ought to set a goal, maybe no higher than 95 for at least 3 weeks, at least 3 days a week, and normally it should be every day, okay? Now, there's 2 or 3 ways to do this. First of all, go on level ground, and you've certainly got an advantage here because of the track right there at Collegedale, okay? And it's simply your breathing will tell you where you are. What did I say? Your breathing will tell you where you are. And so can you go over, and if you walk halfway around and you notice you're really gasping for air, then you're going too far or too fast. Okay? Remember, what's your resting pulse rate? So you can kind of tell if you're breathing kind of heavy or too much. You can stop right there and take it. But let's just say you can walk one time around the track, and you get through around the track, and you look at it, and it's you check your pulse rate, and it's at 95. Remember, it was 75 to start with. That is your goal. If that's the case, then that means for the next few weeks, you want to walk one time around the track at that same speed. Now, you don't want to vary by saying, well, I feel good today, I'll walk faster. You know what I'm saying? And so you can establish your goal, and it's just something you can do. Now, usually I recommend no more than 3.5 minutes, the same way that Dr. Meyer does, maybe 4 at the most. And now let's talk about walking just for a moment. Basically, we all walk in balance. You know, we just have learned. I don't think anybody in here walks like this. You know, we always walk in balance. The other thing we do not do often is we do gasping for breathing instead of deep breathing. Okay? Okay, I want everybody to stand up. Here we go. Come on. Oh, getting in slow motion. Must be getting sleepy. All right. We're going to fill up our lungs with a little bit of deep breathing right here. And folks, and if you're not used to this, hold on to the thing. I don't want you to pass out, seriously, okay? But I want you to take a deep breath through your nose if possible, and you're going to fill up your lungs and hold it there just for a second, okay? Let's just do that. Can you squeeze any more in? Any more? Now breathe out slowly through your mouth. Is that slowly? All right, take a deep breath again. Slowly. You see what we're doing? We're not gasping. We're not going. We're not gasping for air. Deep breathing. So what you want to do, take about 2 or 3 more. Let's just practice while you're standing there, because most of us are shallow breathers. So go ahead and just do it on your own. Fill up your lungs. Squeeze it in there. Remember what I talked about, the pulmonary rate index? I wish that I could do that for you today. I just cannot. So you could find out where you are. It will surprise you. I was at a church a few weeks ago, and the man says, well, I work pretty good. Working is not always in a way of a pattern. So sure enough, his pulmonary rate index was only like 250, much lower than it should have been. Remember, your pulmonary rate health is a huge factor in all this COVID stuff. I mean, that's just the way it is. So if any of these exercises start strengthening your lungs and your whole, all these different parts there, it'll help you. Okay. All right. Now, okay, you can go ahead back and sit back down just a minute. Now, in a few minutes when we take a break, I hope that you'll go out, and what I would suggest is see if you can walk a little bit and practice taking deep breathing, like as you're breathing, like. See what I'm doing? I'm not gasping for air, okay? Because I know we're shallow breathers, all right? It's funny, I was at a church a few weeks ago, and this lady says, I'm a fast walker. Would you like to challenge me? I said, yeah, I'll challenge you. I went off and left her. She says, oh, you're awfully fast. I said, well, I'm only 80. Okay, so. But your body will adjust. That's my point. I was just exactly like you with my pulse rate at 75, and now it's way down to 52 or something. It's just, your body will adjust. God has made it that way. And so, folks, we can do better than we're doing, okay? So we want to set a goal that you can reach. And now, after 3 or 4 weeks, you should be able to see a little bit of difference, and you can start maybe setting it a little bit different. I'd raise it up 20 more, whatever. Now, here's something that's interesting. I had a hard time with it because I'm from the old school. I mean, I was a teacher way back in the 1960s. That was last century. And Dr. Simone, don't make fun of that. Oh, okay. Y'all know y'all have a famous man here, Dr. Simone. Where is he? He won't raise his hand. To my left? He left? Oh, I'm just kidding. He's a great man. I don't even know why I said that. But anyway, I wanted to make sure they knew they had a great person here. So, and I think he's going to help us some more with some of our training this next year as we're starting to work toward praying for that lighter rain, as I was talking about. He does great training programs. Now I forgot where I was. Dr. Simone, let's see. Dr. Simone doesn't walk? Oh, I'm just joking. What? You outwalk the lady. Yeah. Anyway, the point is, this is important. This is one of the best turnouts, balance-wise, that I may have had in 20 years. And I'm not just kidding. Invariably, we have more women in these meetings than the men. I was at a church in Atlanta where I counted. We had 100 women. And you know how many men were there? I think it was 5. I'm just saying it the way I think. The men either are busier or lazier. I'm not sure which. But here's my point. I've seen it over and over, where the women seem to be in better shape than the man, and the woman says, well, come on, darling, I'll stay with you. So the woman can actually go out there and walk just like this right here, which is about a 4-mile-an-hour pace. And the man is having to walk like this. Okay? I'm not making fun of anybody. The point is, if she walks with that slow pace, she's not helping herself in it. She may be helping him or her relationship. I don't have an answer, but either way it works. You've got to work on stay at your goal level. You understand? To grow, to make it stronger and stronger. And so I hope that we will to remember that. Set a goal. But here's what I'm going to say. I have a hard time with this because I'm from the old school. The interval method and the intermittent methods work. What does that mean? You can walk at different intervals. I finally, my son, who's real big in this kind of stuff, one of my sons said, Dad, it works. I had been training for the half marathon, which is 13 miles plus. In the last few that I ran there, I was training, running long distances. He said, Dad, what you do in the interval training is you can mix up the speed. So the last 2 or 3 years, and I was training for the one this year, but then something happened and I couldn't run. So what I've been doing, I've been running like as hard as I can run, which is not lightning fast at my age, but I believe I could outrun some people. No, Dr. Simone, I'm just picking on you. So I run as hard as let's just say I run as hard as I can to the school. Okay? Sprint over there. Then either jog back or walk back fast. Believe it or not, that training works better than if I'm running fast the whole time. I can't even explain it. Somehow it's a give and take thing with your body in between. The other one I have a real hard time with, I know it works based on research, and that is that you can run, or walk. No, we're not talking about running. I mean, whatever you're doing. You can do it 10 minutes this morning, 10 minutes this afternoon, and 10 minutes tonight. That's 30 minutes. And it shows it's actually better if it's broken up. So it makes it a lot easier, folks, for you, okay? So we basically have no choice, it's just look at your schedule. So what I want you to do now is open up your folder a moment, and then there'll be a staple sheet there. No, it's under the staple sheet. Let's see, it's on the right side, I believe. I don't know which side it's on the folder. And it's talking about comparing the mileage.
Oh, it's on the other side here.
Is it left or right?
It's on the right. It's on the right.
It's the first thing, isn't it?
No, here it is. Aerobic mile chart.
The aerobic mile chart. Looks like that. I don't guess you can see it. It's got a blue strip on it. If I had to get that out, look at it real quick. Aerobic mile chart. Now, aerobic mile means the time it would take you, make sure you understand this, because we're throwing these figures around here today. An aerobic mile is the length of time it would take you to jog 1 mile. Did you hear what I said? An aerobic mile means how long it would take for you to jog, which is a slow run, in a mile. Okay? So what we're going to do is take a look at some different activities here that you've got choices. I've mentioned running, but we've also said walking based on this research is the best form of exercise overall, okay? And you certainly start with walking if you're not in a program. And so let's start with walking and gardening. We're going to compare those two things, find walking and gardening. And we're going to look at the easy score and the vigorous score. Ignore the one in the middle, okay? So somebody tell me now, not our health leader, but somebody tell me, what's the easy score for walking 1 mile, time-wise? What? 24 minutes, okay. So if you take an easy walk for 24 minutes, it'll tell you at this rate right here, it would take you about 24 minutes to walk a mile, okay? And that's going to fit probably into most of your plans. Now, in some cases, there may be other cases where we're older or something, and we might have to walk even slower. But, folks, let me tell you what can happen. One of the most dramatic stories I could tell you. If I was even going to make up something, I couldn't match this one. We were at a church at Murphy, North Carolina. Well, let me back up. This happened at Murphy, North Carolina. The kids were walking, doing an aerobic equivalency walk to Alaska and back every day. And you could do something like here with your school. They would go 30 minutes every day, except theirs was in a circle. It'd be like you're going from the school to here for 30 minutes, figuring it out for how far you're doing. So it was a walk to Alaska, 4,000 miles, and see how long it would take. So we went up to film them from the conference office. Well, there I met a lady named Debbie. And Debbie said that she had been in a terrible car wreck. Doctors said you might not ever walk again. And she said, I saw these kids walking and I just wanted to be part of that plan. So she said, I took my crutches. And she said, I just walked out to my mailbox, maybe 60 feet or something. She said, I just walked out there just like this. She said, I got out there and I got back, and she noticed, she said, I just kept doing that. She said, after 2 or 3 weeks, I noticed I could go 2 times and back. Folks, when we went up there to film her, she was walking 5 to 6 miles without her crutches. I'm telling you, it almost makes me cry to realize the effort it took over a period of time, but she kept doing it. And guess what? I was at that church either last year or the year before. I said, is Debbie still here? Yes, and I'm still walking. And she was like 55 years of age the first time. I think she said now she's like 65. So, folks, I'm just telling you, if you can go from a dramatic story like that, most of us can do better than we're doing. All right, so it's 24-minute mile. Now, let's go to the vigorous walking. What would the score be? Same thing. Look at walking, vigorous on the right side. What? 15-minute mile. A 15-minute mile is about a 4-mile-an-hour pace. Think about it. 4 times 15, it's going to be 60. So it's just about like this right here. 15, you're going to walk a mile in 15 minutes at that pace. So eventually, set your goal. And some of you are going to be able to do it quicker than others. I understand that. And stop thinking about other people. It's not competition. It's your body. And you can, you'll feel better. I say it all the time. I may fall over and die in the next minute, but I know I feel good right now. Now, I'm not perfect. Somewhere along the way, I ended up with some kidney stones in my bladder, and they had to do surgery. And I don't know what they did while I was in surgery on that metal table for about an hour and a half. But ever since then, I've been hurting a little bit in my hip or my leg. I ran this week, but it wasn't easy. So the point is, you understand what I'm saying. We can get to the point of feeling better. All right, let's go compare that to gardening. Does anybody in here do any kind of gardening? All right, there's a few hands. All right. So somebody says, well, I don't like walking, but I like to garden. Okay, what's the easy score for gardening? Let's say you've got a hoe out there and you're working in the ground with that hoe. How long have you got to work with that to equal a 24-minute mile walking? What does it say in gardening? 60. You're going to have to work 60 minutes. Mainly that's probably because it's probably thinking maybe using, like I said, a hoe or something. But that would equal it body-wise, breathing-wise. You follow what I'm saying? Which means your heart rate. Okay? Remember, your heart rate, when it speeds up, the breathing speeds up. That's just the way God's made you don't have to stop and say, okay, brain, speed up. I need more oxygen. It just happens, that's the way God made it. It's amazing. Okay, let's compare walking to something else. Anybody do bicycling? Anybody ride bicycles? Does anybody do anything else? What? Not sleep. Come on. Swimming? Anybody swim? Well, I got to get y'all doing something because I'm not going to ask how many of you walk. So let's compare cycling with walking. That's these people out here on bicycles. Okay, just to give you a little idea. What's the score for cycling for the slower pace? 18 minutes, and that's on level ground, not going downhill. Okay, 18 minutes. Okay, what's the vigorous score on a cycle? 10. Okay, so you can see how it compares to others. If you raise your hand, you've got to move your arm. I cannot see if your hand's up. Okay, I see something here. What? Okay, I'm glad you said that because that is the same. Because you can, let me change that. If you can set it at various speeds, easy, more advanced, and difficult. Because my sister-in-law bought one of those too. You want to put it, when you're first starting out, I'd put it on the easiest possible. You're not trying to be a hero. Now, you can test it. If you've got your pulse rate already determined, and you don't want to get it more than 20 above whatever it is, if it's 80, you don't want to be over 100, then you could ride for 3.5 minutes and check your pulse rate and see where your score is. Do you understand what I'm saying? You'd ride the bicycle for 2 or 3 minutes and check your pulse and say, hey, that's exactly where I need to do. So you know now to ride it every day at that level for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever. Does that make sense? What?
Then you stop.
What?
After your heart rate gets 20 above.
Yeah, just stop at that. You got to find your resting pulse rate to keep doing it. And eventually it'll solve. And we're just trying to keep you safe. We don't want people having heart attacks, okay, and that type of thing. So resting, those things will work. All I'm saying is that some of them may not have a speed, and if so, it's going to be in between. But that's okay. It doesn't matter. You can still check it the same way. Any other? Do you get the idea of what we're talking about? There are a lot of things there you can look at. Okay. Okay. We're going to have to switch over now. Are there any questions? How many of you will at least think about an aerobic type program for your body? Let me just see your hand. Now, remember, I'm not saying you're doing it, or at least think about it, and that means in my thing that you also ought to pray about it. That you say, Lord, I need to do better than I'm doing, and I need your help. Everything we do is a habit. And folks, I don't know if I brought any. I didn't see any in my. I've had a sheet, what's called First Step in Spiritual Preparation. That I've given at some churches. You heard what I said this morning if you were here or watched it on whatever. And that is Bible study and prayer. Those things are actually habit. You don't say, well, let's see, when can I study my Bible? When I've got time. No. You find out a place to let things go around that. It might be early in the morning. It might be at night. I don't know when it is, but it's got to be regular. And so what we normally do is ask people to look at your schedule. What can you not control? If you've got little babies, those little babies have got to be dealt with first. Now, I don't believe that necessarily taking care of your husband, getting dressed in the morning, that you've got to get your husband dressed. He can dress himself. The little kids cannot. So you've got to find your schedule. And if you're looking for 15 minutes with the Lord or 30 minutes with the Lord, and you've got 10 hours for television, then you're going to have to figure out what's got to change. You understand what I'm saying? I'm stepping on toes now, I guess. But anyway, my point is, you got to do the same thing for exercise. Now, what I do, I'm going to come to that, I guess, here on the next category, so I'll just wait a minute. But so you've raised your hand. You know what you understand. Find your safe goal. Check with your doctor first if you're older. Don't go out here and somebody call and tell me this week that you had a heart attack because you went and tried to run a mile and you were out of breath after the first 30 yards. Don't push it that way, folks. You ought to come away feeling great. When I go run, I come away and man, I feel good. Sometimes I don't even feel like running. And I get through and man, I feel good. Because remember, I've sprinted, I've jogged back, and I've done this. And, it's just something you can do. All right. Any questions? All right, next category. Let's go forward. Yeah, we've already covered are you going forward? Is that muscles? Yeah. Yeah, it's strength training. Right there. Stop right there. The next category is going to deal with the muscles all over our body. God has made our... you see a chart there with my... it's somewhere here. Okay. I've got one. I don't know where to put it. It's somewhere here. I can't see it. Anyway, muscles all over our body for a reason, so we can move. God wanted us to have a more abundant life, a rich life. He didn't plan to put people in the Garden of Eden just to sit there and stare at each other. Could say watch television, but he obviously didn't have that there. And he did say, I want you to what? Take care of the garden. It didn't say it was going to be heavy work because it was a perfect situation, but it was going to be something that they still did. Now, it's okay. What we're going to take a look is we're talking about the muscles in your body, okay? The bicep, there's two here in your arm, one on each side. It's made on a hinge. It's made so you can lift your arm, okay? You've got on the shoulder here, you've got a deltoid muscle, which means you can raise your arm. You've got three muscles in the back of your arm, which are triceps, which means you can actually raise your arm in this way. Now, you notice when we walk, we're doing both, forward, back. It's not just happening now. It's not taking much strength, but the point is that's why you have muscles. Now, in your legs, you have three muscles right here in your thigh. One in the middle, one on each side. Now, I've thought about before taking a picture of my muscles, but who wants to see an 80-year-old man's legs? Nobody. But I'm going to ask Kim, would you mind, don't think anything strange, but what do you feel there?
Three muscles.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, you don't just walk, folks. I mean, it's amazing what God's made for us. We don't even have to think about it. We don't say, okay, legs, get ready to move. Now walk. And then we start walking. I mean, we think at the same time, the message goes from the brain to contract your muscles. The leg doesn't just move. Those muscles literally pull it forward. Literally pull it forward. So the point is, the better shape those legs are in, the less effort it's going to take. Does that make sense? For instance, if I ask you to lift 15 pounds of groceries, and you're going, this is so hard, this is so hard. Well, it's hard on your body. So if you've been lifting and all of a sudden, what's 15 pounds? Nothing. See, it makes sense, doesn't it? Now, I want you to look at this because let's go to the first test. And this is the test I alluded to this morning. 100,000 people tested from ages 45 and 70. That is a large study. Go ahead forward. You'll see it right there. A very large study. We're only going to look at 8 out of the 12 to give you a little idea of why we need strength training. Okay, go ahead and read the first category. First category is heavy housework. What's the score?
Okay, so that's percentage.
Yeah.
Is the...
A little louder.
I'm sorry. It looks like about 10, 15, and 25.
Well, just look at a percentage. It's about 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. Maybe 4 to 1. Isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, it's about a 3 to 4 to 1 better chance to do heavy housework. And we're talking about moving furniture maybe a little bit, mopping, and things like that take some effort. And if you've done strength training, what's strength training? Okay? We're talking about working with these muscles at least 3 days a week. Now, I want to stop there a moment because now there's some factors here that we want to talk about because we're going to be talking to you in a moment about some kind of weightlifting, something more than a piece of paper to strengthen your arms, your legs, and so forth, okay? But right here, we're just showing you the reasons why. If you've got to do heavy housework, you need to strengthen your arms. When we get older, what happens to our muscles? We all know that's what we call atrophy, that the muscles lose their strength. Just because we got old, it doesn't have to happen. I mean, we think that. Dr. Simone, are you still awake? What happened today when I shook hands with you? Hello? Did I crush your hand? Okay, thank you. I'll turn it over to him. He'll have a speech for the next 30 minutes. Okay, thank you. He's a great guy. Oh, well, is he good or bad? Well, I guess. I mean, that's not what I brought it up. I knew you'd take over the speech, though, if I called your name. Here he comes.
Is it okay if I say something about you?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
You don't mind?
Well, I guess. I don't know what you're going to say. A lot of people around this community know me. I was born and raised here. So they know my good and bad.
I could tell you were raised here. Yeah. By your accent, it was so nice and melodious.
Okay, when I went to Andrews, they asked me if I was going to take English as a foreign language.
Oh, did you?
No, I'm proud of my southern
Yeah,
accent.
keep it, okay? Now, I just want to say something.
Okay.
Are you listening?
Yes.
Are you here with me?
Yes.
Okay. I finished my master's degree in public health from Loma Linda. Okay?
So you want to take over then? Okay.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't, yeah. Relax. Be
Oh.
at peace, okay? I'm on your side. And all what I learned at Loma Linda University, because I'm interested in health, health education, what you're talking about today, what you talked about last time I participated in the seminar, I just want to say this is practical. Everybody can understand, relate to it, because it comes from your experience, from what you do in everyday life. It's something not theoretical, it's something that you experience, and you share with us what you experience, what really helped you to be healthy. That's what I appreciate, how God used you in this ministry.
Thank you. You're a good guy.
Did I do okay?
Love this man. I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
I mean,
That wasn't planned, I'll tell you. Thank you.
I've been practicing all you present. I've been practicing
This whole time back here?
So
Okay, well, listen to me about strength weights
Yeah,
then, because
right.
I'm going to talk about that in a minute.
Well, by the way, I go to the wellness center every day, and I lift weights
Great.
for an hour and a half.
Great.
Okay? So could you please test me again? Give me another chance. Okay, press.
He's doing what my dad he's doing what my dad did. He said, get it a certain way
Oh.
and put the thing there they cannot put pressure on. I know what he's doing.
Just do it anyway.
Okay, I don't care. Come on, let me see what you
Press.
got.
No,
Go ahead.
No,
Okay.
you challenge me. I'm not challenging
No, I'm not challenging
you.
you.
Please press.
Well, I'm doing good. Look,
Show me your stuff. Is that all you can do? Come
okay. I am a defensive handshaker. How does that sound? That means you've got to
on. I
squeeze.
mean, press, please. More.
That's all I
That's
get.
all
I'm
you
not very
got?
strong.
Oh, my.
Okay.
I'm glad I practiced.
Okay. See you later. Okay. Now I have no idea where it was. Okay, folks. Here's the way what we're talking about. Let's go on through this, and we're going to come back to what we were talking about. What's the second category? Quickly.
Walking.
Walking. All right, that's going to be your legs. Better shape your legs you're in, easier it's going to be to walk, easier breathing-wise and everything else. Third category.
Walk up 10 steps. So
Walk up 10 steps. Yeah, I've got an advantage on this, my house, because we live in an old house. It's old, but it's got 2 floors, and there's 14 steps. And I counted one day last week, and I counted over 21 steps I'd been up. That was over almost 300 steps in a day. So every day that I'm any given day, except today, I would probably go 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. So point is, look at the ratios. 2 to 1 almost every time across the board. What's the fourth category?
lift 10 pounds.
Oh, lift 10 pounds. Now that's what he was talking about. And folks, lifting 10 pounds, we're talking about our biceps. Okay, stand up. We're going to talk about a lesson here now. Quickly, we're still standing up slowly. Okay, I don't know if you can see me from the back. Let me get up here, I guess. Okay, what we're going to do, and I got to do something else first. Don't go anywhere. Let me pick on somebody, not Dr. Simone. Okay, you're a big man. Come on out. Okay, I'm going to act like he is an automobile, okay? And he's blocking the entrance out here. We can't even get in. His car's in the way. Nobody's out there. I'm the only one that can move the car. Nobody, he just left his car. So how am I going to push his car? Am I going to take a deep breath and push, or am I going to breathe out, or am I going to breathe in as I'm pushing? What do you think?
Breathe out.
How many think it's breathe in when I push? How many think it's breathe out when I push? Okay. So if I'm going to breathe in, it would be like this. Let's go sideways so they can see. I would do it like this. Actually, I would go, see, I didn't push him very far because I'm doing it. What we do is breathe in and breathe out as we do. Now, I notice he's really trying to he's got his foot braced, so he's got to make sure I'm not pushing him very far. So I'm going to go, I'm going to exert myself, and he never moved his feet because he's afraid I'd push him over. So, thank you. You're the first man to ever do that. You see my point? So here's what we're going to do. Take a deep breath, fill up your lungs to start with. We're going to go, and then we're going to breathe out as we lift. Breathe in. Two more times. Okay. Now, what weight do you start with? And if I had time, I'd have Philip up here at Dr. Simone again, but we can see it would take us a long time. What we're talking about is something that's easy, but more, as I said, than a piece of paper. Now, in my case, I have weights right under the bed. I normally start off with prayer and devotion, and I don't mean so I can exercise. But I have weights between 25 and 50 pounds. Okay, because I can do those right there in my bedroom. Okay, now I have an exercise room with other stuff. So what do? I go with the 25 pounds, and then I go with the 50 pounds. Then I have in another room, I have 35 pounds. And do those every other day. Why would I do them every other day? Why recovery? Why recovery? What does that mean?
Because I'm not 20.
No, I don't mean whether you're 20 or 50. It doesn't matter. Well, the reason is, why do we weightlift in the first place? We're talking about getting stronger. That means what you're doing is actually tearing the cells down a little bit. And so if you come back the next day, they've not even had time to rest and get a little stronger. So technically what happens, you're giving it a rest, and that's why you do not do the same exercises, weightlifting, 2 days in a row. So I'm asking you to think about it. Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or something like that, okay? Now, you can start with a 5 pounds. You can start with a can of beans. I don't care what you start with, but you need something that you can start with. Now, if it's so easy, then that may not be helping any, okay? So there's a little bit of pressure. But not so you got to go, now, and by the way, you don't do it this way either. You don't go, you're bringing other muscles into play. It's all nothing moving but that, okay? All right, turn sideways now and face in so you don't hit the people beside you. This time, we're going to go out and, you still may hit. I don't know. I want you to try going out, but I guess you can do it this way like you're trying to fly or something. I want to go out with our deltoid muscles, okay? Take your deep breath. Whoop. Let's start right here. Let's start down low. Fill up your lungs. Hey, y'all can turn and face inside. I don't mean face out there. Just turn around. Y'all don't have to face each other unless you want to. Turn around. Okay. All right, here we go. Take your lungs, fill up your lungs. Okay, that's good. Now, so this is important. When you're doing your weightlifting, do not take it up and then just drop the weights. Up, drop. No, don't do that. Keep the same strain going up and down, okay? Now, in your folder are copies of different types of exercises you can do. Okay, I'm not going to go into it any greater here. But you need to think about all the muscles. Okay, for example, we just did our arms. No, don't sit down yet. We're not quite through. Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. Now, what we're going to do is turn our hand over this time. Now, the reason is there's another muscle here. It's called the brachioradialis. It comes down this way, down on the inside of your arm, and that's what enables you to lift this arm. So now you're doing a different exercise. Still got biceps, but more of the brachioradius. So let's take a deep breath. Okay, you see what we're doing? Okay. Folks, you can do this with wrist. You can do it. If you're going to do it with wrist, you can do it both sides. You got to be careful. Don't lose a heavy weight. So you don't want to come away saying, that is so heavy, I'll never do that again. Okay? Okay, I think you can sit down for a moment. And because we're doing okay here on time, I think. Okay. Let's go to the next set of questions up here. What's the next category? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Strength predicts limitations in personal care tasks.
What? Hold it straight in front.
Strength predicts limitations in personal care tasks.
No, I mean the event.
Oh, this is dressing.
Dressing. These show a little few things you wouldn't think about. Look at the difference in being able to dress yourself. Now, this may be talking about when you get older. Remember, this was ages 45 to 70 that was in this test. And so at 70, you may not feel the same as you did at 45. But look at the difference in strength training, in dressing yourself as you get older. That's about 3 to 1 at least, or 4 to 1. What's the next category?
Bathing.
Bathing, same thing. Now the next one, somebody at the conference office said, this got my attention, the ability to get on and off the toilet by yourself. Notice that you may need some help. And if you've done strength training, you're going to be in a better shape. And the last one is feeding. So, how many of you will at least think about some kind of regular strength training? How many of you think about it? And you don't have to raise your hand. Nobody's making you do it. But, I mean, we're talking here. We've talked about our lungs. We've talking about now our muscles. And remember, having your muscles in good shape are going to be easier for all the other movements. Now, again, I use myself as an example. I do also the rectus abdominis is the muscle over your stomach area. I do about 400 a week. I do 100 4 days a week. I used to do 700, but because of the sake of time, and just you can do this. Now, I know when you were in school, they had you doing, back when I was in school and coaching and everything else, they had to have your arms back there. Well, somewhere along the way, they changed it to something like this. I don't really care where your arms are. If you cannot do any, and by the way, your knees are normally bent. Now, if you can't do any, then have your arms straight up and your legs flat. That'll make it easier. And you can do that for a while and try to do 5. Can you do 5? We'll do 5 for a while and then build it up to 10, build it up. Your muscles will get in shape. It's going to be a little easier when you're younger, but it doesn't matter because it will help. Physical therapists are now getting people in nursing homes walking. I mean, we've had people that can barely move. And now physical therapists, they're finding out that they can help them do better. And there may be physical therapists in here today. And so they know what we're talking about. Any questions about strength training? Okay, the last category. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
On that former graph, is that people who reported having limitations doing those things? Because I didn't really understand the graph.
Okay, compared to the ones we just showed?
Yeah, the ones we just showed. Is that people reported having limitations to bathing, people had limitations to dressing?
Yeah.
And the high strength, middle strength, low strength, is that, what are those 3 categories? People who are in shape, only 2%?
Oh, we were ignoring the one in the middle again. And the low scores, the best scores were people who do strength training regularly.
And they reported
the others were doing none.
Okay, and so that's the number of percentage of people who reported having limitations. Is that correct?
Well, okay, having a limitation is a little different than being not in good shape.
Yes.
A limitation tells you there may be some reason you cannot lift. There may be torn whatever, or something like that. What we're talking about here are people who have the general health that can strengthen their muscles if they had a regular program. We're not talking about a limitation where a person...
That's just what the y-axis says.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Does that help, my answer?
I think so.
Okay. Well, again, those scores up there are showing the people, the low distance are the people who have been doing strength training. The other ones are people that have not, regardless of the reason. Is that clear? Regardless of the reason. Okay. Next category is flexibility, and we're right on schedule. This won't take very long. Flexibility, we normally talk about is what stretching, but flexibility is what it means. It's you're flexible. Now, we generally think about stretching. That's what we're talking about. The tendons fasten your muscles to the bones. What you've got right here is you've got the biceps. There's two muscles coming down here, but they're fastened right here. And so it's a hinge. So it lifts this up. Now, tendons do that. And then you've got ligaments that can fasten muscles to muscles. Now, I really believe, and I don't know how many of you follow any kind of sports, but people are doing things now that they used to not even come close to doing. It kind of started in some ways like with Tiger Woods in golf and some other people who they used to believe you should not do weightlifting, that it made you too bulky to have agility. Well, they've proven that wrong now, so you've got athletes who are much stronger than they used to be. You've got baseball pitchers that are throwing the ball over 100 miles an hour. When I played baseball, there was hardly any that threw over 90. You've got runners that are running faster. You've got people jumping much higher. I remember when I was in high school, the world high jump record was around 6'5". Well, now it's probably 8 feet. All these changes. But you'll also notice if you follow anything in sports, there's all kind of injuries now. Lots of injuries. And I can't prove it because I'm not in that field right now. But I have a feeling that we are not keeping up with the strength of our tendons and ligaments to the muscle training. When I was young, they said, don't try to throw a curveball in baseball. It's just not made for your arm. They said, don't lift weights. Today, they've got kids that are lifting weights because the National Football League are starting to watch players when they're in the 5th grade. We're talking about all kind of money. And so now, and I coached on a junior high level and high school level, but in football, I coached on a junior high level where back then, kids weren't supposed to lift weights. If they did, it was just a little something. Now, that's changed. Now, the reason I'm leading into it, and that is the importance of, I feel like, working with our tendons and our ligaments and stretching. Now, well, just quickly, my brother did start weightlifting when he was in high school, and he's one of the strongest guys I've ever seen. He built a lot of the churches. He didn't build this one, but he built a lot of the A-frame churches in our conference long ago. But he was so strong, but he couldn't bend much farther than right here, which means if he's in a car wreck and something pushes down, something's going to tear and give. So flexibility important. Quick question, and we're going to take a break here. We're right on schedule in just about 7 minutes. Do you stretch before or after exercise, heavy stretching? What do you think? How many think it's before? How many think it's after? That's pretty well, about 50-50. It is afterwards, and here's the reason. Our body is made to operate on heat. If you take a rubber band and put it in a freezer and take it out the next morning and pull on it, what's it going to do? It's going to snap. There's nothing wrong with stretching before, especially if you've not done anything all day, but the heaviest stretching. So stand up a minute real quick. We're going to do something and then just be through. And by the way, there's also a sheet in your folder showing you some exercises for doing this, okay? I just now realized I didn't finish on the strength training. You can also do pull-ups or modified pull-ups. They've got bars now. You can do modified pull-ups, push-ups, all these things are there. Now on this, let's start with a simple one we all heard about, and you may have to turn sideways so you don't hit your head. We're going to gradually go down to stretch the back of your legs. Do not try to put your hands flat on the floor, or if it hurts at all, go only as far as you can and stop, and you hold it for, we'll say, for about 5 seconds. You don't bounce up and down. Stretching, you're trying to stretch the back of your legs. Now, if they're bent, then you're not stretching the back of your legs because you're not stretching the tendons and the ligaments that are holding your leg together. Does that make sense? Now, some people can put their hands flat on the floor. We're not trying to be a hero, so don't worry about that. Okay, go ahead and stand up. Don't stand over and get dizzy. Okay. Some others you can do very quickly, and put your arms here, I think, rather so you don't hit anybody. without moving your feet, you can turn to a certain place and hold on the side. You'll feel the pressure on your legs. You got to be careful. You can really pull some muscles if you try to do it real hard, slow. Do the same thing on the other side, okay? Put your hands straight in front of you. Pull your hands back toward you, and you can feel the strain it's causing, okay? Now you can go back, hold them up. Now you got your palms up. See how you're stretching different parts of your body? You can turn them over and go back. It's going to be different. Okay, this is one you can do just to give you a quick idea, and that is with your head. Put your right ear on your right shoulder and just hold it there for a few seconds. See if it hurts or whatever. You don't want to do it. If it hurts, then stop. But go as far as you can without hurting and hold it a few seconds. Now, left ear on the left shoulder. Now, watch what I'm going to do this time. I'm going to look to the right, and now I'm going to try to lay my right ear on my back. That may bring some pain in there because you're probably not used to doing that. Left side, left ear, and over. Those are just simple things that you can do. And yes, you should do, if you need to do a little bit of your stretching before, that's fine. But when you get through with your weightlifting or your sit-ups and these things, is the time to do some of your heavy stretching, okay? I actually practice a golf swing by doing things like this right here. Now, in this position, look at my left leg. You can't see it, but it's bent in. I've got my whole body is forcing back here as far as I can go. And then when I come through right here, I'm reaching out. So now I'm reaching out as far as I can. So just find some fun things to do, okay? How many of you will think about flexibility also as part of the thing? Okay. Now you don't have to think. We're going to take a break, and we're right on time. We're going to come back at 15 minutes till. So go outside, get water, go to the bathroom, go walk at least one time to the school and back, please, or crawl or something. At least move. Don't just sit here, okay? When you come back in, we'll start on nutrition. That Dr. Simone. Okay, we'll go forward to the heart, picture of the heart. Okay, folks, we're ready to start. We're going to be starting on discussing on carbohydrates in regard to the problem of type 2 diabetes. The type 2 diabetes is the fastest growing health problem in the world. World Health Organization says that by the year 2050, 1 in 3 people will have type 2 diabetes if we keep going the rate we're going. And this is almost entirely, folks, the way we eat. And naturally, heredity is a factor, and some of these other things are a factor. We'll even talk about exercise in relation to this in just a few moments. Carbohydrates. As we look at it up on the board, now remember this is also in your folder, but carbohydrates, as most of us already know, is converted over to what? What does it say? Hello? Okay. Would you like to read what's up there, please?
Sources
Glucose,
of carbohydrates, sources of starch, sugars, and fiber.
So, sources, starch, sugar, cereals. Okay?
Starches and sugar are converted to glucose, which is the body's main fuel.
Notice there's something interesting there. I mean, glucose is just the way it is. I mean, it's like protein goes to amino acids. What does it say? This is important. It's the number one source of energy. Now, what's wrong today is we have, especially again, with a lot of coaches out there who are teaching kids that protein is the most important thing for energy. And that's just wrong. And yet a lot of the kids are saying, well, they got to have, we're going to find out here in a few minutes how much protein we need a day, and we're getting triple the amount we need. We'll see the problems with it. But right now, concentrate on carbohydrates, which is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen together. Those are plant foods. Carbohydrates are plant foods, not animal products. Okay? Now, notice that it's the number one source of energy. That's interesting. Very interesting. We'll see it as we go through this. All right, next picture. Next picture, did you get it?
There it goes.
Okay.
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Fruits, vegetables, and cereals are the main sources for carbohydrates.
What did it say? Fruits and vegetables. Now, in just a few moments, we're going to be looking at glycemic index to give you a little idea of the good and the bad. But as an educated person, and if you have diabetes or diabetic or anything, you already know these things. But you will see some points that maybe you hadn't thought about. Okay? How much carbohydrates do we need every day?
58%.
Okay, 58%. Is that up there?
It says 58% of total calories each day should come from these foods.
Okay. 58% is kind of hard to figure out how they got to exactly 8. But say it's almost 2/3, I guess you could say, of your diet should be carbohydrates. Folks, in the American diet, and in most countries now, most of the diet consists of animal products. Matter of fact, on the video that we see in a few minutes, note right off when he starts, he compares to what it was like 100 years ago compared to today. Most of the people were eating plant-based things from their garden. There weren't fast food restaurants in the year 1921 and all these kinds of things. Most of them were farms and country places. Now, they were eating a lot of meat, but nowhere close to what we're eating now, especially with some of the things like potatoes and some of the other vegetables. So, why are we talking about this? Well, mainly to understand the importance, but also, of course, to prevent type 2 diabetes. We'll make some more comments on that as we go along. Let's go ahead to the next picture. Okay, we're going to look at the glycemic index. We're going to look at 6 categories to give you a little idea of what we're talking about. But before we go into this, I want to go ahead. I'm trying to decide whether I want to or not, how I normally do this. Let's go back a little bit. I think we missed something in the beginning. Something we missed and I missed it. It's not her fault. It's mine because I said it wrong. Sugars, starch, and fiber. I think I said cereals. Did we say cereals or fiber?
Yes, you did.
We said fiber?
Cereals.
Oh, yeah, it should have been fiber. And so what we're going to take a look at right now, because I want to show you the importance, if you'll open up your folder on the one side, I don't know, the side opposite of where we had exercise. No, it's not the one that's stapled. It's in your green folder in the pocket. Did y'all get a folder? Oh, they didn't get one. And as you're finding that, it'll say fiber, and it'll list some foods at the bottom. Vegetable. Yeah, can I hold that up so they can see that? I don't know if they can, but this is what it looks like right here. If you can see that. I think the big words are high fiber cereals or high fiber something, food. Okay, take a look at that and tell me, and by the way, we need 20 to 35 grams of fiber a day. Now, what does a gram mean? It means nothing to us, unless you've been cooking for a long time in your life. A gram is equal, 4 grams is equal to 1 teaspoon. Okay, keep that in mind. We know what a teaspoon's like. So if you have a teaspoon of something, then that's 4 grams. Now, the American Diabetes Association, and you can get this off the internet, has recommended the amount that we need in grams, but also in teaspoons. I'm going to show you some foods in a few minutes in teaspoons, because that is more practical to most of us. Now, women that do a lot of cooking may be used to grams. I don't know. The American Diabetes Association recommends that kids that are under 6 years of age should have no more than 3 teaspoons of sugar a day. Folks, we're getting triple the amount of sugar that we should be getting in this country, and that's one reason, and around the world, because of how we're eating. Now, my ages 6 to 9 years old should be, I said that wrong. Let's see, 6 to 9. 6 to 9, if you measure it in teaspoons, it would be like 6 teaspoons. But if you multiply 4 times 6, of course, that's 24 grams. But the lower the age, especially if the age is 6, 7, in that category, there's another factor in this, folks. And this is something that they stress in this little booklet, and you can certainly get this. And if you're diabetic, you already know this. That fructose is the sugar that's in fruit. Fructose. There's 5 different kinds of sugars. Fructose is in plant foods, like an apple. So why is that a problem? Well, it's not a problem, except in order for the fructose to be broken down properly in your body, insulin comes from your pancreas to break down the food into glucose. Okay? The insulin comes from the pancreas. You know that if you're diabetic. But fructose requires fiber to break down the fructose. So if you have apple juice, you're taking the fiber out, and now there's no fiber to break it down, which means you're going to have to get a lot more insulin in from the pancreas to break it down. So if you continue that trend, that's why by the time you get to be 40 years old, diabetes is called an adult problem. Childhood diabetes, it just gets worse because we're wearing out our pancreas. Okay, so you're going to use the illustration here. My granddaughter was at the time she was 6, and naturally I'm going to say my granddaughter was smart. We all say that, don't we? And so I explained to her one day. I said, Aaliyah, you should have no more than 4 let's see, 6 years old. Yeah, you should have no more than 6 teaspoons of sugar a day. She said, I said, you know what a spoon looks like. So she's one day riding to Sabbath school, and my daughter had given her fruit juice. And so she reads on there that in this cup she was drinking, that there was 6 teaspoons of sugar. She said, that means I can't have any more sugar the rest of the day. Now, if a 6-year-old can read labels, adults can certainly read labels. But apparently my daughter was not aware that that's also bad for a child because there's no fiber in there. And a lot of people buy fruit juice for kids without any fiber in it. See, God made the apple with the fruit fiber right in it. When you eat the apple, you're getting the fiber plus the sugar. It breaks it right down. You understand that point? It's a simple point. But diabetes, I know it runs in some of even my family, and it's like nobody wants to pay attention to it. They just don't want to change. There's nothing you can do about it. Take insulin the rest of your life. I told you the diabetes program with the Grundy program, now called Reversing Diabetes Explained, they've had people get completely off of sugar. Now, somebody asked me today about, I forgot the word now. You asked me neuropathy in your leg. They had a lady that came to the training, and she had neuropathy really bad. After she switched to a plant-based diet, about 6 months later, this woman came across the parking lot running, and they said, we thought you couldn't even walk. She said, my neuropathy's gone. She said, I changed my diet and everything's gone. Doctors didn't know what to do about it. So anyway, all right. Keep that in mind as we go through this now. Let's start with the first category. And so in other words, what's normally said is you need 20 to 35 grams. Now break that down into teaspoons. You can see where that would fit somewhere in there. Now, the 25 grams times 4 is an awful lot of sugar. And I think that's not good at one time. Now, remember, it does provide the energy level that we need, but you don't all want to have it at breakfast. You know what I'm saying? These things have got to be spread out, if that makes any sense. Let's go to the glycemic index. First category is going to be grains. And we're going to look at grains. We're going to look at the top left-hand corner and the bottom right-hand corner. And in this case, we're going to be talking about pasta. Now, pasta can come in all shapes and forms, as you know. And all of it has the same basic amount of sugar. And now, when we talk about sugar, we're talking about sucrose, which is the type like white sugar. There are other types that we'll see. Maltose, we've got lactose, and I don't know what else. Sucrose, I said that one. But what I want you to notice is that the pasta, this is a normal serving, which is about a cup. Now, you're going to hear me say this 3 or 4 times. What man is going to eat 1 cup of pasta? If he's eating, he probably wants 2 or 3 cups. You know what I'm saying? Big plate full of pasta. So this is just one, and it raises your blood sugar level to whatever it says. What does it say? 61?
64.
64. Now go to the bottom right-hand corner. What normally goes along with pasta?
French bread.
French bread. 1 slice raises your blood sugar level to 136. I was just with relatives this last week. He is a former doctor. He is on insulin. The wife is educated and I don't know if she has diabetes or not, but she kept talking about the most popular bread that they like is French bread. And I don't even know what to say. It's like educated people even don't want to change or whatever, or things they can't change. 136. Now, what man is going to eat 1 slice of French bread? Most of us are going to eat 2 or 3 slices. So you can almost double that. Now, add up the pasta and the French bread, and you can see where you are. You're already at 200. Now, here's the way it works. If your blood sugar level stays between 100 and 129, you are regarded as a pre-diabetic. If it's over 130, You are diabetic if it stays that way consistently. And doctors will probably put you on some kind of medication. Eventually, if it's bad enough, you may have to have insulin. We've got people getting off these things by changing the way they're eating. And so it's not impossible. It's up to you. Okay? All right. Do you see anything else in this section on grains? On the right-hand side, is there anything up there about rice or potatoes? What does it say? What do you see? White rice. What is the score up there for white rice? A cup of white rice is going to turn your blood sugar level to what? 126. Folks, white rice is a staple food. I've been in India, the Philippines, Nicaragua, Puerto Rico, Bermuda. Every one of these places are the staple food is white sugar. Like potatoes have been in this country in the past. Sugar is actually passing potatoes here now, along with meat. Bad things for us, okay? So, look at this. Your body can handle it. That's 200 of sugar level right now, but your body can handle it. But imagine if and I'm going to show you here in the next few minutes, you keep blowing this up. What do you think is going to happen? Obviously, you're just wearing out your body and you're taxing your pancreas. Okay, look on the left-hand side. And what is the brown rice score? Left-hand side. 79. What? 79. So which would be better for you from a sugar standpoint? White rice or brown rice. Which is it? Yeah, that's logical. And there's some other reasons too, because partly of some other benefits. All right, let's go to the next category. Cereals. I asked you to go down the grocery store. It is amazing. It is amazing now how many different cereals they have. It's just like they keep inventing all these crazy things. They're almost all the same. I've looked at things that are supposed to be healthier, like Wheaties and grape nuts and some of these things, and they almost all have 10 grams of sugar. 10 grams times 4 is 40. The adult level is already close to what they recommend, between 48 and 52 in a day. And these are a cup of these cereals. All right, what's the cereals up there? What's the first one?
Barley.
What?
Barley.
No, let's not take barley. Now, barley, the average American never even eats barley or doesn't even know what it is. So what's the next category?
All bran.
All bran. There's an example. What's the score?
60.
60. All right, down on the right-hand side, rice checks. What's the score?
127.
127, and that one is more common. Now, there's all kind of stuff out there that's been invented for kids. And so what's happening? The kids are eating these things with a high sugar level. They're drinking the fruit juices with no fiber. And then we're wondering why? Because their bodies the cells are getting clogged up. Cell resistance is one of the problems in diabetes. And that is the cells are just clogged up and they just are resisting now. They can't take anymore, so it's now passed on to the next cell. And you keep doing that, and you can see eventually what the problem is. The insulin is increasing, and it's just not enough, and now you got to have shots to add to it. So again, it's very interesting that we just, number one, need to be educated. Number two, do we need to be motivated? All right. I don't think there's anything in that category that I want to look at anymore. Let's go to the next category.
Fruits.
Fruits. Here we go. Here's the fructose. The first one up there is what? On the left-hand side.
Cherries.
What?
Cherries.
Cherries, yeah. 33. Isn't it 33 on
32.
the glycemic index?
32.
32. And that's a cup of cherries. Now look at watermelon on the right-hand side.
103.
103. That might surprise you. Out of all the fruits listed up there, watermelon is the highest. And that is one slice, folks. Tell me what man is going to eat one slice of watermelon. Are you serious? I haven't eaten hardly any watermelon all summer, but when I did, I can tell you it wasn't one slice. I probably wanted to eat a quarter of the watermelon. And you can see how easy it is to blow this sugar level out of the water. It's just, that was a silly illustration. But anyway, there's something else important that, I'll point it out again. Let's just go ahead and finish. I'll point it out in a few minutes. Go ahead.
To the next slide.
Yeah.
Legumes and vegetables.
Fruits and vegetables, right?
Legumes and
Oh,
vegetables.
legumes. Yeah, there's peanuts up there, 21. I will tell you that something, I used to weigh about 200 pounds, and a few years ago I decided to go on a diet which consists basically of a variety of nuts in the morning. Nuts are very low in sugar. They also will stay with you, and they, depending, walnuts and some of the others are different values. You can have to just check those things. But that was the main reason, the only thing I changed, and I was able to lose about 25 pounds or something, down to about what I am now, just basically on the breakfast. The foods we eat in this country for breakfast are cereals and meat things, and things that it's very hard to have a healthy breakfast unless you plan to do it, okay? All right, let's see what's over on the right-hand side. I don't think I want the very bottom one. What's the last two there?
Pumpkin and baked potatoes.
Baked potato. What's that score?
121.
Same as the rice. Look at the left-hand side at the sweet potato. What's the score for the sweet potato?
77.
Just exactly like the brown rice. But potatoes, white potatoes, they I guess are cheaper, and they probably are easier to, it's just a habit of eating, and so you can see, again, body can handle it, but we need to know what we're eating if we want to avoid diabetes, okay? I'm going to show you some more practical foods in just a moment. Okay, what's the next category?
Pastor Dempsey, can I
Yes.
jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Talking about these categories, we're inviting you for supper. For those who can stay, we have some soup, and along with that, they are plant-based soups, and they have some of these same things up here, like lentils, cauliflower soup, and black-eyed peas. So anyway, that's talking about your
Yeah, it really is. We all of us know this. Almost everything we do is habit. We eat the same kind of foods over and over. We do the same kind of things. What's the score on lentils up there?
The score of lentils is 41.
Lentils?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Lentils is an excellent source also of fiber and some other things. So, okay, let's go to the next category.
Sugars.
Sugars, yeah, this one just shows some of the different kinds of sugars. Like I said, among maltose, I think I've already mentioned most of them. Okay, go to the next picture. There's a picture we've missed somewhere. I tell you what, let's not worry about it right now. I'm just going to say it. And I may have said it before. When we saw the picture from Harvard Medical School, and I know Will said in a few minutes, but I don't want to go to it, in regards to what I said about diabetes, and the one I showed you about getting the blood flow 3 times if you walk regularly, what they also found out, that if you after you eat a meal, if you take a light walk for 20 to 30 minutes after a meal, it'll bring the sugar level back to where it was before you ate, or even below. Now, not many of us do that. We don't take time in the morning. We don't take time hardly ever do it. I try to do it at lunch at the conference office to try to walk every day, afterwards, because it will bring your sugar level down. Not many of us do that, in the morning or at night. Okay? Okay. What I want you to do is, can you bring your speaker up? We're going to look at some common foods here, and tell us how much sugar is in these things. But what is the first one?
That is chocolate milk.
How much?
1 cup, 24 grams to 6 teaspoons.
All right, 1 cup of chocolate milk. Now, we often a lot of people give kids chocolate milk in the morning. It's got sugar in it. There's that 6. That's the limit for them for all day. They don't know that. What's that one?
That one's cola drinks, and that's 12 ounces, 40 grams to 9 teaspoons.
Yeah, the kids right now are drinking triple the amount of in soft drinks that they should every day. It's an amazing amount. We're not going to look at all these. What's this?
That's an 11-ounce thick shake, and that's 59 grams to 13 teaspoons.
59 grams. That's more than the adult is supposed to have in a whole day. That's one thick shake, and I think that's a medium shake.
Yeah, it's 11 ounces.
And this one will fool you right here.
Applesauce. 1 cup of sweetened applesauce. It's 42 grams to 10 teaspoons.
It will fool you. The sweetened there, I guess, is the part. What's this?
Chocolate cake.
Uh-oh,
It's
here
a
we
frosted.
go.
It's only one piece, 1.5 of a cake is 57 grams to 14 teaspoons.
Now, people saying I'm going to meddling now. One piece of cake, one slice, 57 grams. Is that what you said?
57 grams.
More than we're supposed to have all day. Now, notice that we start totaling these things up more than all day, and we're getting it. No wonder we're getting triple the amount of sugar we should be getting. Is that the one you read?
Fruit. No, that was the one.
Okay.
Fruit snack. Fruit leather pieces. It's only 1 ounce, but it's 16 grams to 4 teaspoons.
For 1 ounce. What's that one?
That's a fruit yogurt. It's low fat. 8 ounce container of 43 grams to 10 teaspoons.
Well, that fools you. See, low fat fools you. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
And yet it's 43 grams?
43 grams to 10 teaspoons.
Folks, you begin to see how this adds up? I mean, these are just 1 cup or a few teaspoons or something. And, what's that one?
That's the fruit yogurt. That's low fat.
What's another high one?
There's let's see, that's a granola bar. Peanut butter, jelly sandwich. Just one is 21 grams or 5 teaspoons.
And again, probably if I was eating that, I could eat 2 or 3 of those sandwiches. Okay, that gives you a little idea. It's an overview today of foreign diabetes. I would recommend that you take this magazine, everybody, if you want to know more. And also this one right here, this little white one. Okay, this is the plan. Now, they will be scheduling pretty soon in this area. If I schedule it, I pay for it. If your church schedule it, you do have to pay for them to come in. But I can tell you it's worthwhile because I mentioned Butch Oliver and his family that has completely changed. All right, let's go to the next picture. This is your heart. Your heart is the size of your fist, okay? Let's go to the next picture. Now, we're going to be talking here about protein in just a few moments and fats. 2 elements that we're going to see a lot on the video in a few minutes, so I will not have to say a lot about it, but there are certain things I want to say, okay? Now, the next picture is basically showing you that the artery, now remember I think I've already put it away. I don't think I kept it out. I thought I put it away. That we had earlier. Is it up there? Oh, what is that right there?
That's your jug. Yeah, that you must have put it
What
away.
is that? Is that my?
That's your jug.
Huh?
That's your clay jar.
Don't let me forget that. I thought I put that away. Okay. You saw the artery this morning. The opening in the artery should be 4 times right here. This artery is open. The artery itself is 4 times bigger than the wall itself. But as it begins to collect, this what we call plaque. Folks, this comes strictly from animal products. Protein and fats. Protein and fats can also be in plant foods. But what's happening in this country is that we're eating 3 times more protein a day than we should eat. We're eating 3 times, that's triple the amount that you're supposed to eat of fats, and I'll explain that a little bit in a minute. But let's go to the next picture now, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, read that one for us.
Moderate atherosclerosis.
Atherosclerosis, okay?
There are usually no signs of disease until 90 to 95% of the artery is plugged.
You hear that? Unless you're having regular blood tests, there is no way of knowing whether your arteries are clogged or not till it's 90 to 95% clogged. This is why I said we need to have these tests every 2 years at least, if not every year. What are we talking about? We're talking about cholesterol. Cholesterol is not in plant foods of any substantial amount. Why? Because God made our body to make its own cholesterol. You say, what? The cholesterol that our body makes our cellular walls strong, and it's the proper balance. The problem is, He made all animals to make their own cholesterol. So when you eat an animal product, you're getting the cholesterol from the animal plus your own. Now, doctors will tell you, when you get a blood test, get your cholesterol under 200 and that'll be okay. You're going to see a video in a few minutes. The Framingham Heart Study, the largest heart study done in America, did not find one single heart attack if cholesterol was under 150. So any doctor, and if you're a doctor and you're saying at 200, I don't understand where you're getting that figure from. Because the Framingham Heart Study, the largest study, showed not one heart attack under 150. I'll use myself as an example. I became a vegetarian when I was in high school. Not this far from over here at Tyner, not too far from here. And I decided when I was in 11th grade to stop eating meat. I loved meat. I ate one time 8 beef hot dogs. I ate, 4 or 5 hamburgers. I could just really eat tremendous amounts. I wanted to eat as many crystals as I could, but back then we didn't have that many. They were only a nickel, but I thought I could eat 20 and I didn't have $1, I guess, or something, but I never got a chance to do it. But through the years, my cholesterol, even though I stopped eating meat, my cholesterol stayed over 200, 210. Research shows that for every number over 200, you double your heart attack rate. For example, if it's 210 over 200, you got a double chance for a heart attack. 220, now you got 3 times better chance. It just keeps doing that. Folks, we were doing testing down in Georgia. We had a young girl come. She was probably in her 30s, and her cholesterol level was like almost 300. Her blood sugar level was about the same height, and she had no idea. Been tested. We had a guy come in one day, and his blood sugar level was 400. And the nurse, this is why we require a health professional to be involved with anything we do like that. Because what if the person doing the score says, hey, you got a good high score, great. Well, the guy didn't know he had a problem. He went to the hospital, and of course, that's diabetic territory, 400 instead of, you know what I'm saying. Family said he had no idea. So that's why we have to be very careful what we tell people. And in my case, it stayed high until about 20 years ago or 25 years ago, I decided to get off of other animal products, cheese, eggs, milk. So what's wrong with that? Well, those are animal products, and they got cholesterol in them. And it was only then that my cholesterol came under 150. It's been as low as 133. It was 144 the last time I checked it. It's a habit. We're used to eating those things, and you can do what you want. But we're just talking about the scientific fact, and you'll see on this film what we're saying. Here's what happens, and I usually use this gross exaggeration. There's a hawk flying around out here. If you eat the hawk, which was probably illegal to kill anyway, but let's just say it was in the road or whatever. You eat the hawk, you're getting its cholesterol, but you didn't know the hawk had just eaten a dead rabbit out here on the road. I'm sorry, let me change that. A dead snake on the road, and the snake had just eaten a rabbit. Now you've got 3 different sources of cholesterol in that one thing. That's a gross exaggeration. But we're getting triple. We need between 30 and 45 grams, again, depending on your body size, compared to water. Remember, 200-pound person to a 100-pound person. Your cholesterol level between 30 and 45 grams, we're getting 150 grams a day in this country. That's a 5-day supply. Same thing with fats. Fats, saturated fats, we should have no more in meat of 15 grams a day, and even plant fats. You got to be careful with it because we call it good or healthy fats, but you know what I'm saying. The unsaturated fats should be no more than about 30 also. We're getting 150 grams of fat a day on that too. It's up to us, but we're going to show you some more. All right, let's go ahead to the next picture. What does that one say?
Severe atherosclerosis. This artery is 99% plugged with buildup of cholesterol and plaque.
Yeah, it's 99% clogged. All right, let's go forward. Let's look at protein. Is that protein?
Yes, protein.
Protein is changed to amino acids. Now, I want you to notice very quickly the figures. At the bottom, it tells you why we need protein. What's the first thing it says?
It says chemically break down into amino acids, but building blocks for proteins are hormones, enzymes.
Okay, stop right one at a time.
Okay.
It says we need protein And again, we need 30, 45 grams. We don't need 150 grams. The body doesn't store protein. You're going to see on this video in a few minutes a severe problem for having too much protein. Now, hormones, is that going to affect how you feel? Hello? Yes, it's going to affect how you feel. So we need the adequate amount of protein. What about enzymes? Is that going to affect how we deal with different germs and all these kinds of problems? Yes. What's the next category?
The structural components.
Yeah, hard parts of our body. Hair, bones, teeth. So again, we need proper protein. But nowhere does it say we need animal protein. Okay, what's the next category? It may say muscles, but this is where we really get into trouble. A lot of coaches tell our kids out there, you've got to have a lot of protein in order to have big muscles. Excuse me, the biggest animals in the world are elephants. They don't eat any meat. I mean, you see what I'm saying? There's just a lot of crazy stuff out there. Or you got to, I mean, my son, one of my sons, the other one, is supposed to be intelligent, but I don't know how intelligent he is. He's telling me that his coaches are telling him he needs 200 grams of protein a day. I think they like to rib me a lot. He'll say, I got to go take some more protein. I said, son, the body doesn't store protein. Now, in a few minutes, you're going to see on the video why I said that, because you're losing a lot of things that you need in your body by having too much protein. Okay, so let's go to the next category, next section.
A person needs approximately 1/3 of their body weight in grams of protein each day.
Yeah, you're right back to where 1/3 of your body weight in protein. So if you're, technically, if you're a 150-pound person, you only need 25 grams of, isn't that 1/3? 54 grams. 50 grams would be half of that. Yeah, that's why they say 54. Everything's based on a 150-pound person. So it's usually about 54 grams is what they say is the limit. But again, it depends on who's talking. I mean, because most of these are using animal products and things. You'll see on the video, he's not going to say that. All right. Let's go to fats. Let's go to the next slide.
Meat and dairy products.
Yeah, but
Go next.
Most Americans are using animal products to get the protein.
Okay. Fats.
Okay, let's go to fats. Saturated, unsaturated. This has been designed by God. Actually, God designed it so that you can store some fat, which is energy. Remember, all these things are energy products. And especially we learn from the carbohydrates is the main source of energy. And so a little bit of fat can be stored up to use in an emergency if you want to say it that way. But again, remember, we're eating way more. And by the way, don't forget this. Harvard Medical School again. A few years ago, what they found out was that if you eat 500 excess calories over what you're burning up, you'll gain 1 to 2 pounds a week on the average. Everybody's bodies are different. Some are going to gain more, some less. We'll say it again. Let's say that you're on a 2,000 calorie diet. If you're taking in 2,500 and you're only burning up 2,000, you're going to gain 1 to 2 pounds on average per week. 5 days, if you eat that way, 5 days out of 7. 500 excess calories, 5 days out of 7. If you want to lose weight, then you've either got to take in 500 less calories 5 days out of 7, or you've got to combine taking in the calories by burning up the calories. And this is where exercise comes in. But that test was strictly on taking in calories. So people often ask me in these about losing weight, and I'm fully aware that some people can lose it easily, some people cannot, and there's all kind of problems on that. But the test showed on the average of what I just said, okay? All right, what we're going to do is I think we're going to look very quickly at this before we go to looking at our video. Now, for some reason, this one's gotten broke, so we're going to try to hold it on here. And what she's going to start with, this is talking about fats, but it's almost identical to proteins. We're going to look at a hamburger that's average and French fries. How much grams of the protein in that one hamburger?
So this is a hamburger, 80% lean. It's a 3 ounce, 15 grams or 3 teaspoons.
15, we're going to use some grams on meat. It's harder to measure meat on a teaspoon. The 15 grams, not bad, except we just heard that saturated fat shouldn't be more than that in one day. But how many people eat one hamburger, especially if it's not a giant, and that's not. Okay, now take the French fries.
The medium French fries is 25 grams.
Medium French fries is 25 grams. Add that up. 25 and 15, where are you? You're at 40 grams already. Now, how many people eat a whole, not medium, but the large French fries and the 2 hamburgers? Okay, that's just two things during the day. But you're already at the limit. Okay, let's take something else. What is that one?
Bacon and eggs cheese biscuit, just one, is 24 grams.
So now add that. If you had a bacon and cheese egg biscuit, you got cholesterol. By the way, folks, there are 200 milligrams in one egg. If you want to know what's wrong with eating eggs, 200 milligrams in one egg. And you say, well, it's hidden. It's in cake. Correct. And you'd have to eat the whole cake probably to get it. However, that does add up percentage-wise on all the other things that's got eggs in it during the day if you eat eggs. See what I'm saying? And you know, sometimes we, you know, well, anyway. Okay, let's take this one.
Beef hot dog, 1 franc, is 13 grams.
One. Now again, what man's going to eat one beef hot dog? I told you I ate 8 one time at one time. So if you had 3 times 8 is 24. Is that right? What did you say the grams were?
For a beef hot dog was 13.
Okay, that's 39 already. If you had 3 of them. So you begin to see. Let's go over to this. Will get you on potato chips.
Potato chips, 1 ounce, 11 grams.
1 ounce. I mean, who's going to eat 1 little ounce of potato chips? Once you start, you just want to keep eating them. And boy, does it add up. I mean, what was the score?
11 grams.
11. You could easily get 30 or 40. Okay, let's go to cheese. This will get us pizza.
Pizza thin crust cheese, 1 medium slice, just 1 medium slice is 8 grams.
No, it's not bad. Just 1, 8. One of my kids, somebody bought me a pizza recently that didn't have any cheese on it, just vegetables. Well, I'm going to eat the whole thing. I'm not going to eat 1 slice. I mean, again, man, what slice? Let's have pizza. Well, I don't think I'll eat 1 slice. No, I want the whole big pizza. Well, so multiply, I don't know what the minimum is. It'd be 4 slices probably, at least on a small. So 4 times 8 would be 32. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. See how this starts adding up? Now, there's another one here somewhere on pizza.
Let's see. Deep dish, extra cheese, pepperoni, 1 medium slice is 17 grams.
Okay, so they're eating more than 1 slice. You can see 2 slices would be 34. Now, I hope we're not eating pepperoni, but okay, what do you got there?
Ranch dressing.
Listen to this, folks. Ranch dressing.
2 tablespoons is 16 grams.
2 tablespoons, 16 grams. Do you see what we're talking about, folks, how easily this can add up? Now, I'm not going to spend a lot more time on this because of what we're going to watch on the video here in just a moment. The video is entitled A Diet for All Reasons. As I said, it's not a spiritual person. I mean, he may be, but I mean, for what I can tell, he's coming from a scientific standpoint. And I say that because sometimes Seventh-day Adventists have been accused maybe of trying to show things only from something you might believe or something. But this is scientific facts. So as soon as you're ready, what we'll watch is called A Diet for All Reasons, and we'll be watching that. And I guess, can we turn the lights off too when we get ready? These are interesting lights. I really find it interesting. Lights, action.
This is a quotation I saw in medical school by Thomas Edison. It said, "The doctor of the future will give no medicine, but instead will interest his patient in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease." And one of Thomas's brighter ideas. And when I saw this quote in medical school, I just passed it right on by. I went to the University of Illinois College of Medicine in Chicago, and I was so into becoming a real doctor, and real doctors do real doctor things. They deliver babies, they fix broken arms, they sew up lacerations. That's what real doctors do. And diet was boring stuff. Nutrition, yeah. You send them down to the dietitian, and they figure out a 2,000 calorie diet, and don't bother me. And that's how I practiced medicine for the first 8 or 10 years of my career. Well, I have soon, or I've late, come to realize how important what we eat really is in the creation and prevention of so many of the diseases that we see today. And I'll tell you how I came to those realizations. Now, the North American diet has changed. This is not going to be a technical lecture, but I did want to show you this one graph because there's some very significant lines here. The two top lines, the lavender line and the yellow line, are the amount of plant-based foods that are consumed in the United States and in Canada as well. And this is back in 1909. You can see we were eating a lot of grain products. We were eating almost 300 pounds of wheat and barley and other grain products, and almost 200 pounds of potatoes a year. Look what happened in the intervening 85 years. Our consumption of wheat and grain products have fallen to half of their 1909 level, and our potato consumption has fallen to half of their 1909 level. Look what happened to the amount of flesh foods that we are eating. The amount of milk we consume has more than doubled. Our beef consumption's gone up by 50%. And our chicken consumption's gone up by 280%. We are eating a tremendous amount of animal flesh, and we have essentially exchanged a plant-based diet for a meat-based diet. And the results have been just disastrous for both our health and the environment. Consider how much animal flesh most North Americans eat. In their lifetime, the average meat-eating American is going to eat 15 cows. Going to eat 24 hogs. Will eat 12 sheep. She will eat 900 chickens and 1,000 pounds of assorted animals that either swam in the water or flew in the air. That is a tremendous amount of animal flesh to be pouring through the human bloodstream year after year. No wonder we wind up with clogged arteries and high blood pressure and cancers and a lot of other diseases, and I'll show you how those two are related. Let's talk about the health effects of an animal-based diet. Here it is, the great American dietary catastrophe in all its glory. I grew up thinking this was good food. What's for lunch, Mom? Oh, I got something good for you, son, she'd say. And she would give me some food like this. And my mother didn't know, and your mother didn't know. They didn't know that the sausages and the eggs and the ham were just loaded with fat and cholesterol. And this is a coronary artery thrombosis waiting for some place to happen. Now, what is the effect on your body when you eat food like this? Well, the effect was brought out very dramatically to me about 10 years ago. I was on the cardiovascular anesthesia service. That's the service that deals with people's hearts and blood vessels. And like all good anesthesia residents, I was making my rounds one evening to see my patients for next morning's surgery. And the last patient I was seeing, I pulled back the curtain, and there was Mr. Phillips. Nice fella, but he was just huge. He weighed 290 pounds. And he was booked for a 4-vessel coronary artery bypass procedure. He weighed 290 pounds. 290 was also his systolic blood pressure. It was also his cholesterol level. It was also his blood sugar level. I called him Mr. 290. Nice guy, but really clogged up in his arteries. And because it was late at night, it was too late to call the blood drawing technician up to draw his blood test. I drew his preoperative blood work into a glass tube. And I put it out at the nurse's station, and later I came by to pick up the blood tube and take it down to the laboratory. And when I looked at the tube of blood, I couldn't believe my eyes. When you draw blood into a glass tube and let it sit there for an hour, it separates out into two parts, and the red clot settles to the bottom, and the liquid part of the blood, the serum, rises up to the top. Here you see two tubes of blood, and the tube on the left is normal blood. Here you see the dark red clot. And this golden yellow liquid, this is normal serum. This is what your blood is supposed to look like. But I looked at Mr. Phillips' tube, and it was just shocking. The serum floating in his tube was thick and greasy white. It looked like Elmer's glue. It stuck to the sides of the tube when I shook it. I went back into the room. I said, Mr. Phillips, did you eat before you came to the hospital? He said, yes. I said, what did you have? He said, I had a double cheeseburger and a milkshake. And when he said that, I realized what I was looking at was all the fat in the beef burger, and the butter fat, and the cheese, and the butter fat, and the ice cream, and the butter fat, and the milk. had oozed out into his blood and turned his blood fatty. It's a well-known clinical phenomenon. It's called lipemia, and it happens every time you eat a fatty meal. You turn your blood fatty, and your blood stays this way for 4 hours until your liver can clear it out of the bloodstream. If you are like most North Americans and eat bacon and eggs for breakfast and a cheeseburger for lunch and fried chicken for dinner and ice cream for dessert, you're keeping your blood fatty all day. The stuff never clears out of the bloodstream. You keep your blood fatty for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. What do you think is going to happen to the arteries carrying all that fat? I will show you what happens to the arteries carrying all that fat in a few minutes, but it's a disaster. There's a lot of fat in the North American diet, and it's hidden in most foods. You can see the fat around a T-bone steak, but most of the fat is in the muscle of the animal, and it's hidden in the dairy products. And most of the folks who present food to us don't want us to think about the fat, especially the fast food industry. They really don't want you to think about how much fat is in their burgers and hot dogs, except one chain of fast food restaurants in Los Angeles. There is one burger chain that is very forthright about the reality of the fat content of their diet, and they come right out and tell you clearly on their marquee about the product that they're selling. Now, if you stood outside the exit door of this restaurant or McDonald's or any other fast food restaurant where people are shoveling in their cheeseburgers, if you stood at the exit door with a needle and a syringe in your hand and drew blood on the people walking out the exit door, what you would see is most of the blood would be as fatty as Mr. Phillips' blood tube. Now, they're all in there making the blood fatty. If you ever have a big cheese pizza and a bowl of ice cream afterwards and you feel a little greasy on the inside, it's because you really are. You really go greasy on the inside. Animal fat comes in 3 flavors in the North American diet. It comes in the form of red meat, and the fat is in the meat. It is in the fibers of the animal's muscle, and just trimming off the white fat around the edge of the steak really does not lower the fat and cholesterol content significantly of the meat. So red meat is the #1 source of fat and cholesterol in the North American diet. The second is the yolk of hen's eggs. The egg of a chicken is meant to hatch baby chicks. And the yolk of the hen's egg is one of the most concentrated globs of fat and cholesterol on the planet. It is made to power that baby chicken for 21 days with no other energy. And when you run egg yolks through your bloodstream, you turn your blood fatty, just like Mr. Phillips. And the third source of fat in the North American diet comes from that white fluid that comes out of the udder of a cow. Now, cow's milk is a high-fat fluid exquisitely designed for turning a 65-pound calf into a 400-pound cow in a year. That is what cow's milk is for. Now, whole milk has a butterfat content of 3%. That's the cream that rises up to the top. And you drink a 3% solution of butterfat, you're going to turn your blood fatty, as will a 2 and 1% solution of butterfat. But at the dairy, the butterfat is skimmed off and they concentrate it into huge vats, half the size of this room. And they concentrate the fat to 50, 60, 80, 90% fat. This stuff is so thick you can walk across it. Why do they do that? Well, they do that so you will buy it and eat it. The butterfat is mixed up with air until it hardens into chunks called butter. The butterfat is mixed with sugar and frozen and sold as ice cream. The butterfat is mixed up with cocoa powder and sugar and sold as milk chocolate. Butterfat is mixed up with bacteria and allowed to ferment until it turns into sour cream. A lower fat version is called yogurt. And the butterfat is mixed up with calf's stomach and bacteria and allowed to ferment for about 6 weeks till it hardens into chunks called cheese. These are all forms of butterfat. The folks at the dairy want you to buy the butterfat and eat it. And when you do, you turn your blood fatty. There's absolutely no reason to run butterfat through your bloodstream at any time, and I'm submitting to you that you'll be a lot healthier and happier if you do not. Cow's milk is for baby calves. You have no more need of cow's milk than you knew giraffe milk or horse milk or rat milk. Now back to Mr. Phillips. Nice fella, but I was impressed with all the fat in his bloodstream. We took Mr. Phillips down to the operating room, and I gave him 1,000 micrograms of fentanyl and put him to sleep, and the surgeon opened up his chest and opened up his aorta and opened up his coronary arteries. And what the surgeon started pulling out of Mr. Phillips' arteries were great, long, yellow, greasy, sausage-like formations of fat that look like this. What you're looking at is a plug of material called atherosclerosis. And this is the plug of fat that built up in a man's arteries The artery was a tube coming out at you from the screen. The artery wall has been cut away, and you're just looking at the fat that built up. It started around the edge of the blood vessel and started moving in on the blood flow channel as the years went by. And the blood flow channel got smaller and smaller and smaller till only this dark red spot was left for the blood flow to come through. And when a clot formed here, it stopped the blood flow completely through that artery. And because it happened in this man's right coronary artery, it stopped the blood flow to his heart and bought him a ticket to the autopsy table. This is the #1 cause of death of people in North America. Every 30 seconds on this continent, Canada included, somebody grabs their chest and falls over with a heart attack. This is animal fat clogging up the arteries. When you send this material down to the pathologist and you ask him to analyze it, the report always comes back the same: saturated fat and cholesterol. It's animal fat. The pathology report never, ever, ever contains the words remnants of broccoli, rice, and tofu. It's animal fat. The good news is when you stop running animal fat through your bloodstream, this stuff melts away. This stuff will come off the artery walls, and arteries can open up. And Dr. Dean Ornish in California and Dr. John McDougall and a number of other physicians are now routinely reversing atherosclerosis, having people cancel their coronary artery bypass surgery because they changed their diet and their arteries have opened up. That's the good news. Here is the process happening. Here are 6 arteries coming out at you from the screen. The dark red circle is the artery wall. The pink material is the atherosclerotic material clogging the artery. The white spot is the blood flow channel, which is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Any organ dependent upon this blood vessel for its blood flow is in trouble. Fortunately, it's a reversible disease. This atherosclerotic material clogs arteries all over the body. It's just a matter of which artery to which organ clogs up first that gives you the symptoms. If the yellow atherosclerotic fat builds up in an artery going up to the brain, you will suffer a stroke. If it clogs an artery going to your kidney, you'll suffer kidney failure or high blood pressure. If the atherosclerotic material accumulates on the walls of large blood vessels like the aorta that takes blood from the heart down to the abdomen and legs, the artery walls become damaged and weaken. They lose their strength. And the high pressure in the blood vessel causes the artery to balloon out, forming an aneurysm, which can then rupture, leading to emergency surgery or death. If the yellow atherosclerotic material clogs up an artery going to a loop of intestine, the general surgeon will open your abdomen and remove that loop of bowel. If the atherosclerotic material clogs up an artery going to a toe or foot, you will watch that toe or foot turn dark and gangrenous, and you'll sign permission forms for amputation. And if the atherosclerotic material clogs an artery going to the heart, you will suffer crushing chest pain when you walk, called angina pectoris. Or if it clogs the blood flow completely and damages the heart muscle, that is a heart attack. People, this is all the same disease. We are talking about animal fat essentially clogging up the arteries throughout the body, and it's the #1 cause of death and disability in North America. And this is essentially a disease of people who eat animals and the products made from animals. You almost never see these diseases in pure vegetarians. And William Costelli, the doctor who runs the Framingham Heart Study, says he has never seen a heart attack in anybody with a cholesterol below 150, and there's good reason for that. Why does this happen? Because all fats are not created equal. There is a fundamental difference between animal fats and plant oils. Animal fats contain cholesterol. No plant food contains cholesterol in any significant amount. It is an animal product. And very importantly, animal fats are highly saturated. They've got lots of hydrogen atoms hanging on them, and that makes animal fats very stiff. In fact, animal fats are solid at body temperature. If you're in a kitchen on a summer day and you've got a piece of T-bone steak on the counter and it's 98.6 degrees out, the same as your body temperature, the fat on that beefsteak is solid. It's a nice white chunk sitting there. If you have a bottle of olive oil on the same table at that same temperature, it's liquid at that same body temperature. I don't know about you, but I don't want to eat any fat that is solid at my body temperature because it's going to start clogging up my arteries. And that's the beauty of plant oils. They're liquid at your body temperature. They really don't cling to your arteries. Animal fats contain a substance called arachidonic acid. And arachidonic acid stimulates the creation in the body of a substance called prostaglandin 2. And prostaglandin sets off lots of inflammatory reactions in the body that can irritate the blood vessels, perhaps contributing to atherosclerosis. It may well cause a lot of inflammatory reactions in the joints, the skin, the bronchial membranes, and other places. Plant oils have a substance called linoleic acid, and that gives rise to substances called prostaglandin 1 and 3, and these are natural anti-inflammatories. They soothe inflammation in the body. So people who are on more vegetarian diets have much less problem with inflammatory diseases. Fundamental difference. You have no need to take animal fats into your bodies at all, and I really suggest you meet all your fat needs, and we need about 50 grams of fat a day. Get it from plant oils. You find it in grains have oils, legumes have oils, nuts, seeds. There's lots of oils available in the plant kingdom. That's where you should meet your oil needs, not from the fat of animals. The other thing about fats is make you fat. Animal fats stick to you. When you eat fats of animals, those fats wash through your bloodstream, and as they as they flow through your fat stores under your skin, they stick there. You've got fat cells looking for pre-made fats, and you eat the fat of animals, they stick there. What you see hanging on this man's abdomen really isn't even his fat. That is the fat of all the cows and pigs and chickens and ducks and turkeys and other slow animals that were walking past his table when he had a fork in his hand. Not his fat. The good news is, if he changes his diet and starts eating rice and vegetables and good plant-based foods, this stuff melts away, and people get leaner. It certainly happened to me. Remember the old nursery rhyme of Jack Sprat, who could eat no fat, his wife could eat no lean? You always see Jack portrayed as a lean fella because he ate no animal fats. Mrs. Sprat's always seen sitting down. She has a hard time getting up. Her knees hurt her, her blood pressure goes up, her diabetes gets out of control, so she's usually sitting down. The lesson of Jack Sprat was certainly not lost on me, because back in the operating room in Vancouver, here I was, and now I'm the anesthetist, and I'm standing at the head of the table looking down into the surgical wound, and I'm seeing all this fat in these people's arteries. And I did most of my growing up on a dairy farm in Wisconsin. I've been milking cows since I was 6 and driving tractors since I was 8. And not only was Mr. Phillips eating all these animals, but so was Dr. Clapper. And I was eating cheese and chickens and various other slow animals, and I was getting concerned. Not only should my patients not run all that fat through their bloodstream, but this old doc shouldn't either. So I said to myself, if you don't have to run all this fat through your bloodstream, must you? What is the nutrients in meats and dairy products that if you don't eat them, you're going to be deficient of? So I opened up my books on biochemistry and physiology and nutrition, and guess what I found? There is absolutely no nutrient, no protein, no vitamin, no mineral, no nothing found in meats and dairy products that you cannot obtain out of plant-based foods. Consider the biggest animals on the planet, elephants and buffaloes and giraffes. These are vegetarian animals. They grow to thousands of pounds of muscle and bone without ever eating cheeseburgers and pepperoni pizzas. We can do the same. We can certainly build our 140 pounds or whatever it is you need to build in your body. The human body has absolutely no nutritional requirements for animal flesh. If you open up Harrison's textbook of internal medicine, you will find no disease listed acute cow flesh deficiency. And there is no chronic chicken flesh deficiency. There is no such disease because we have no need for these substances whatsoever. Animal fats, they clog you up and they make you fat. 2 good reasons not to eat them. Here's a couple of more. It seems to be fairly clear as study after study comes out that if you are eating large amounts of fats in your diet, you are significantly raising your risk for cancer. If you are a woman eating a lot of fat in your diet, and that's talking about the hidden fat in cheeses and meats, etc., you increase your risk of cancer of the breast. Here are some countries that are compared by how much fat is eaten versus how many women die of breast cancer. And you can see that the Americans and the Dutch, with their big dairy industries, lead the way in not only fat consumption, they lead the way in breast cancer deaths. Thailand is a Buddhist country. They eat very little meat and dairy products, and breast cancers are so rare there, if you find a case of it, you report it at grand rounds. This seems to be a disease of diet, of a high-fat diet. If I were a woman with breast and I wanted to decrease my chances of getting breast cancer, I would get the fat out of my diet. And that includes excessive amounts of vegetable oil. You need a little bit of vegetable oil, but you don't want to slather 2 cups of corn oil over your spaghetti for any reason. Men are not spared the ravages of a high-fat diet either, because when a man eats lots of animal fats, those fats are turned into male hormones called androgens. And androgens stimulate the prostate gland to get big. In our society, when a man reaches 60 or 70 and his prostate gland gets big, his doctor puts his arm around the patient and says, well, George, that's just part of getting old, your prostate gland's getting big. No, it's not. That's 70 years of running androgen through that prostate gland. No wonder that gland gets big, and prostate cancer is the #1 killer of men. And if you compare countries of the world versus how much fat is eaten and how much men die of prostate cancer, sorts out just the same way. The more fat that is eaten in a country, the more the men die of prostate cancer. And again, it's a very rare disease in Thailand, where people eat rice and vegetables and traditional foods. So, animal fats. They clog you up, they make you fat, and they increase your risk for a number of types of cancers. There's 3 good reasons not to eat animal fats, and as I said, there's absolutely no reason to eat them ever. Now, I'm describing problems with eating animal flesh. They have too much fat, and that includes chicken and fish. Fish has a tremendous amount of fat and cholesterol in it, and chicken flesh is very fatty food. If you ever watch your mother make chicken soup, you ever see all that fat that rises up to the top there? Don't kid yourself that chicken is lean meat. It is not. There's just as much fat and cholesterol in chicken as there is in beef. Animal muscle is animal muscle, and when you eat it, it raises the level of fat in your blood, and you do not need it. There's another problem with eating animal flesh. It has too much protein. Now, when I was in medical school, I never heard the words too much protein. I thought the more protein, the better. Put them on a high-protein diet, make them strong. Tain't so. You better believe there's such a thing called too much protein, and most North Americans suffer from it. First of all, what is protein? Protein is the building block material that you use to make the hard structures of your body. Your fingernails are made of protein, your hair is made of protein, your bones are made of protein. It's the brick of our body. It's a solid substance. Now, you don't need very much protein during the day. You only need about 30 grams of protein a day. That's the weight of 10 pennies, okay? Imagine 10 pennies in your hand, that's how much protein you need. But look how much protein the typical North American consumes. On a typical North American eating day, a typical American who has bacon and eggs for breakfast and a glass of milk, who has a cheeseburger and milkshake lunch, and has a beefsteak dinner with a glass of milk and some ice cream for dessert, is clipping along at 150 grams of protein. That is a 5-day supply of protein. That is too much protein. Why? Because your body can't store protein. You can store fat, you can store carbohydrates, you can't store protein. So what happens? Well, your liver starts breaking down that protein, and as it metabolizes it, it releases all sorts of toxic nitrogen-containing waste like urea and ammonia and amino acid fragments. And these have a detrimental effect on the body, because as all these amino acid wastes go through your kidneys, it makes you lose calcium out of your urine. Why does that happen? Because there's fundamental differences between animal protein and plant protein. And I'm talking about the protein in meats and dairy products. Animal proteins contains amino acids that have sulfur, and sulfur makes extra acid in the body. And as acids wash through the bone, they dissolve calcium out of the bones. Plants have much less acid. Animal protein is very concentrated. The muscle of an animal is the most concentrated protein on the planet, and so there's a big bolt of protein that goes into your bloodstream as soon as you eat it. Plant protein is mixed up with fiber. When you eat whole grain rice or whole grain barley, it takes hours for that to be absorbed into your bloodstream. The absorption time is much, much slower. So the less acid nature of plant protein and its slower absorption rate means it's much gentler in the body, and it doesn't pull calcium out of your body. That's a very significant phenomenon. The phenomenon of protein pulling calcium out of your body is appropriately called protein-induced hypercalciuria, too much calcium going out in the urine. What I'm saying is, and it's well documented, when you eat a big bolt of animal protein, whether it be red meat or chicken or fish or even milk, the acid nature of the protein washes through the bones, dissolves the calcium, which then goes out in the urine. And what I'm telling you is that every time you eat a piece of chicken, and every time you eat a piece of fish, ladies, for the next 3 or 4 hours, you urinate calcium out of your body down the toilet. And the investigators who've documented this many times clearly say that high protein diets cause a negative calcium balance, even in the presence of more than adequate dietary calcium. Even if you are taking calcium tablets and drinking milk, protein is such a potent yanker-outer of calcium out of your body that you will not be able to keep up with the calcium loss. Does that ring a bell with anybody? It did with the investigators. They said that osteoporosis, thin, crumbly bones that fracture easily, would seem to be an inevitable outcome of continued consumption of a high-protein diet. In our society, we are told that the cause of osteoporosis is not chewing up enough calcium tablets or not drinking enough cow's milk. And you're really told to believe this. There's a lot of medical evidence that says this just is not so. And this was clearly shown, I feel, in a study that was released by Cornell University recently, done by Dr. Colin Campbell, where they investigated thousands of people in the Republic of China. And they found that in this country, essentially osteoporosis is unheard of. They don't get osteoporosis. And women make it into their 80s, having nursed 5 children, and they have nice, strong bones. And yet here is a country that consumes essentially no dairy products. The milk isn't available, the cows aren't available, the refrigeration isn't available. They get all their calcium out of grains and greens and fruits and vegetables, and they don't get osteoporosis because they are eating grains and vegetables, and it doesn't make them urinate out their calcium. But it's been clearly shown as the Chinese folks move to the cities, get more affluent, and start eating more meat in their diet, they start losing calcium, and then the osteoporosis appears. It's really becoming apparent that osteoporosis seems to be not so much a disease of calcium deficiency, it's a disease of protein excess. You see osteoporosis in the countries that consume the most protein. In the United States, in Scandinavia, in Europe, and in Australia. That's where you see osteoporosis. You don't see it in China, you don't see it in rural South America, you don't see it in rural Asia, where people are eating grains and vegetables. And I'll tell you, dairy products are no protection against osteoporosis because the Americans and the Canadians and the Scandinavians are the people who drink more milk and eat more cheese than anybody else on planet Earth, and they have the worst osteoporosis on the planet. And if dairy products protected you from osteoporosis, you wouldn't see it in North America, and you see just the opposite because there's so much protein in dairy products that it acts.
It should be on.
Yeah, it's on. Okay. If you need to be in there. Okay. Okay, folks. It's been a long day. All of us are at a different part of the path of life. We should not be critical of people. One of the big mistakes I think we make often is criticizing people because of what they're eating. Folks, we're going to be lost or saved by whether we love the Lord or not and whether we're following the Lord. And we make a big mistake and make people feel guilty by the fact that they don't agree with us maybe on what they're eating or not eating. And so keep in mind that we're all at a different part of the path of life. And you may not be to the point where you want to be vegan, or you may not want to be to the part of, these kind of things. But what we try to do today is give you a little idea of how we can do better. And I would just simply ask you to pray that the Lord would show you areas where you need to make changes, and I think He will help you make those. I'm going to have prayer, and then what we're going to do is just we'll draw the numbers. Of course, the biggest thing we're giving away here is the Family Bible, and 2 or 3 things. This won't take very long. This is an interesting book that our president's been using. That's a good, just some of the books. And as soon as they've got that, those things are gone, then we'll let everybody come up. I'm going to tell you, this is the biggest crowd that I've ever had in the Chattanooga area. And I've had some big ones in Atlanta, but this one, it looks like we may have had as many as 70 people here earlier. And this is the best that we've done in the Chattanooga area. So I think it's just, again, due to her, and I wish y'all just give her another hand for her planning and thinking and everything else. And so, again, I hope that we've learned something today spiritually and from a health standpoint. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all the people that came today. They did not have to come. Lord, this morning we talked about our need for trust in you and allowing you to guide us and direct us. This afternoon we've taken an overview of some of the health situations. We're all at a different part of the path of life. We ask that you would simply show us where we need to make changes and how to make it, and we know that you will help us to do that. So again, thank you for the leadership here in this church, for everybody that has come. We ask that you will dismiss us with your blessings. We know that Jesus is coming soon. We need to be studying. We need to be praying. And I'd ask that you would bless us in every way possible as we leave. Bless this church as we go forward into next year. We thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, look at your last three numbers on your ticket. She will call the last three numbers. And as soon as that happens, as soon as you get up here, the next person is going to be called. So if you stand there. Now, remember, you can take one book, one magazine on each side. So feel free to do that, and I appreciate everybody coming, and you're free to leave afterwards. Now, are you planning, did you want to say something about your...
Yes, we have some soup back there and some crackers, so if you'd like to stay for supper, you're welcome to.
Okay. Appreciate everybody coming today. So did we read a number yet?
The first number is 617273.
273. Now, we had some people leave, so we may have to go through this a little longer. 273.
Ticket's stuck in the crack. Oh, no.
Okay.
Let's do another. Okay. This is 280. 280.
Can't get it out.
Did it go through?
0280.
All right. Is it you, Dwayne? Oh, awesome. Okay. Oh,
What's he saying?
it's his daughter's.
Okay, go ahead. Pick whatever you like. Read the next one.
Okay. The next one is 254.
Remember, you can take a book and a magazine from this side, book and magazine on this side. Now, if you want to take any cards, you can take a whole box of cards or some cards. And if you want the videos, that's
Anybody
each
have
one
254?
is an entity.
I bet 254 was yours. I bet so.
Well, we had a lot of people leave, so I don't know.
Yeah, because
They still don't know their number?
He lost his ticket down in there, so I'm sure it was 254.
Oh,
You
okay.
go
Well,
ahead.
come on up there.
There we go. All right, 249.
249. Okay, I'm gonna simplify this, I think,
All
in
right.
just a minute.
Oh, you got it? Fantastic.
Come on up. Thank you.
291. And you guys, kids, there's posters
Oh
up
yeah,
here.
there are posters here that you can also,
There's little
you can
posters
take that
and
in
big
lieu of
posters.
something else, if you've got a young child or something.
291. Yep, there you go. All right.
I'm going to ask a question after this person comes up. Does anybody, who would like to win the family Bible? Okay, that's the first person I saw. Come on up. Matter of fact, I can bring it to you. Here you go. Now you can come up and get other things. Okay, I think I'm going to let them come on up now.
Okay.
Okay, you're welcome to come on up. There is a music here. This lady has sung with me many times from South Georgia. If anybody wants to listen to music, this can be taken by somebody. All right, everybody can come on up.
You might want to tell them they can't have this.
Oh, yeah, you don't need this. This shows how much tobacco in 1 year of smoking 2 packs of cigarettes. That's not something you want.